There you go. That's interesting. Okay, where did it go? You say you couldn't do Wednesday. And if I'm not going to do Should kick her out and send her back in, but it didn't. It's weird. There she is, okay. Well, yeah. Maybe not.
We try rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the second regular board meeting of the Ballston Trustees, June 26, 2026. We cannot approve minutes tonight as they were accidentally left off the attachments. Yeah, I actually see now it only went to you and me, Jen. That's what happened with that.
Oh, that's what I thought was
Yeah,
on.
just found it as I wrote
Sorry.
it down. So we will do that at the next meeting. Public hearing for proposal of law number 1/2026, residency requirements for appointed officials, planning board members, and zoning board members. Before we jump into this, and hello Carla, our village attorney is joining us via Zoom as her neck of the woods did not have the Ballston spot DPW treatment clearly, and she's been a little snowed in. Do a volume check on to make sure you're okay too, so that you heard.
Hello.
Hello.
There we go. Okay,
You
good.
hear
I
it?
wish I did have Scott. I'm not quite sure my town did my street at all.
Oh, wow.
Who did you tick off in your town, huh?
There's a list.
Uh-huh. Well, thanks for joining us, Les, and to everybody else on Zoom. If you do want to talk on Zoom now, probably it's a great time to use the raise hand function. I'll be talking for a minute here, and then we've been tending lately to go back and forth between in-house and on Zoom for folks that want to speak generally. And for those of you not used to our meetings, there will be 3 chances to speak at this meeting. Yes, 3. That'll be in this public hearing, which is dedicated only to local law, or proposed local law number 1/2026. Then there's a public comment on agenda items only. I think we should establish right now that there will probably not be a vote for this, so we would ask you not to be duplicative in terms of if you speak on this in the public hearing, please don't speak on it in the public comment that is after this public hearing. And also with respect to a third chance to speak, there's public comment on anything later on in the meeting. So that's how we work it. This will have 5 minutes per speaker, 3 minutes for the other public comments. The general rules are pretty simple. Speak to the board and direct all comments to the board. This is for opportunity for the board to take in information from you and consider where to go with this next. No name calling, please watch your language. Please, if you can, identify your name and address. It has nothing to do with the general substance of this. It's more just as identification so that we have it in our records and can reach out to you if necessary. I just want to give a brief history on this for those that didn't read some of it that I had posted last night, but to help identify where we've come from, why we're here in the first place. Way back in 1992, when I was a young type of 16, the Village of Ballston Spa passed a set of laws in Section 45 related to residency requirements for public offices or village offices, I should call them. And it bears repeating something I said yesterday and underscoring now, because our attorney Carla and I had a good conversation just a little while ago. We may disagree on a couple things related to it, and I'll get to that in a second, but what we do agree on, it is horribly drafted with respect to the intent back when, or what we think was the intent of that law. It looks now in retrospect that the intent was to allow public offices that are specifically essentially the clerk, deputy clerk, treasurer, deputy treasurer, positions like that, to be able to have residency throughout the entirety of Saratoga County. That is allowed by the New York State Village Law 3-300 Part 2 with respect to allowing home rule to widen the residency to Saratoga County. If the village had decided to go beyond Saratoga County at that point, it would have taken an act of legislation to be approved, and that was not the case here. What's confusing is instead of just naming or omitting certain positions or offices, they tried to do some kind of redefinition of the term village office, and this is where I have a real problem with it, with respect to what the village probably couldn't legally do, or maybe shouldn't have done it this way because it creates broad confusion. But in attempting to do that, you sort of have to go to 3 different parts to understand what is or isn't a village office for the purposes of this. So last year when the question first came up for this guy right here, Mike McNamara, who had lived, how many years in the village, Mike?
Over 50.
Over 50 years. So he was a 1-year-old when he first moved here, and he moved over to Moreau at this point. We were taking a look at this because Mike is an invaluable resource. I've known him, he worked as a partner at EDP, Environmental Design Partnership, for a number of years. Great experience and great voice on the board. I have not always agreed with Mike. That's the way it works. I would tell you that we are better with Mike than without Mike at the end of the day. But then we also began to explore, other problems here. And so we asked our attorney at the time, Carla, to sort of begin looking at this because we were trying to understand what we could or couldn't do. And it was confusing as heck. So we began to land on, researching it more. We did. And so at that point, we had Karen Aveniris on our zoning board as an alternate, Mike on our planning board as a member. He had been renewed in January of last year for a term that lasts till 2029. Karen is a year to year. And so we were beginning to figure out what to do. When the new board came along, I had discussions with all the members and said, here's the conundrum we're in here. We've got a residency requirement apparently for this group that goes throughout Saratoga County, and a residency requirement for this group that goes Village of Ballston Spa only. What do you want to do with that? And we began to try to craft a different concept here because it seemed like having your treasurer or your clerk from Clifton Park didn't make much sense. South Glens Falls in the other direction. So maybe it's worth limiting that residency to something like the Tri-Town area that we refer to, 12020, whatever you want to call it basically, but that was the thought. And then also, because of the historical problem we've had, quality pool candidates for planning board especially, but even zoning board over history, looking at the idea of maybe expanding that to the Tri-Town area to have a unified residency rule. So we thought a compromise had been reached. We sit down in a meeting 2 weeks ago. Carla had said, the mayor had instructed me based on what the conversation had been. She had drafted a law. We discussed briefly that everybody seemed to be in support of setting a public hearing based on the law at the time. That's why we're all here. I see everybody. And so here we sit. I know I am the village punching bag. It's one of the things that's in, I think, 4-400 is it for mayor, what my duties are, including village punching bag, so I get that. But at the same time, this was something that all board members looked at and at the same time wanted to hear feedback on. I've just been bold enough to explain to you publicly why I support it, what I've been through over the last few years, trying to fill those board positions, but also to explain that losing a guy like Mike, even Matt Erkeline, who just had recently, I didn't realize he changed his residency until recently, moved to the town of Ballston. Congratulations to him. He got married and God bless. But he had gotten some great experience on the zoning advisory committee, the ZAC. And so to lose that too, for somebody that's going to have a great knowledge of what the new zoning code is, basically, it's a sad thing to lose that kind of experience. So I explained that, and obviously we get reactions, and it is what it is. The one thing I will state, though, and the thing that continues to bother me is, let's face it, this thing just got more publicity than we've ever had for our planning board or our zoning board over the last few days. I think I have gained 2 maybes in terms of people that are willing to send in documents to say they want to step up to be on our planning and zoning board. I should clarify here, for those confused out there, the committee interest form was never intended for this. It was advertised by a couple people as the way to do this, and we did receive, I think, all of those, although Jen may have 1 or 2 more. I don't know if she's got any more.
You're as up to date as Friday was.
Okay.
So if anything came over the weekend, then I don't have.
But because of the way these boards operate, because of the way the appointments operate, we have generally retained the idea that it should be a resume and a cover letter to the mayor. Mayor evaluates, interviews if necessary, and then gives recommendations to the board for new position filling. If it's a vacancy that's being filled, I would get to make that myself. However, for me, I always go to the board members, go to Rory, our planning board chair, and say, what do you think? And Anna, if she's here, I'm not sure, Anna Stanko on the zoning board, what do you think? And get their feedback too, because at the end of the day, they gotta work with the members. Makes sense. I could sit here and just say, I'm gonna pick cronies all day, every day, and hand them over to the board, or if the vacancies, just take a crony and have at it, because I'm not running again in 23 months most likely, so what do I care? But I do. I care a lot about this community. And so it's not what I'm about. It should be, to me, non-political, non-partisan type folks without agendas. For the planning board especially, there should be people that have a certain breadth of knowledge. And that's why I wanted to make sure we had a balancing here and put forth to everyone why we have a concern about the pool level. Because I didn't get yet that groundswell of applications. I got a lot of emails from all of you, but still looking for applications to be able to consider a broader pool. And I would tell the board, at the end of the day, I'm going to look to you, regardless of how this thing turns out, to begin helping me recruit folks, because it started, but we haven't really seen it yet.
So we have a public hearing, do you think we can get to the part where we listen to the public comments?
I will happily, when I'm done talking, thank you. So anyway, thank you for that. My challenge to you is to help recruit for the future, because Paul, Charlene, 4 years down the line, that doesn't just mean in January or December, that's going to mean also the rest of the months, find people that are interested for sure moving forward, regardless of what the decision is on this, because I think we need to do better with respect to that. Mary did as well, or that, but to the new kids on the block who have full 4 years, that's my request of you to move us forward in that direction, because it's needed. So you have the background more or less, and also the intent there. I want to give you the opportunity now for the 5 minutes. So just raise your hand if you're in the room. We'll get to everybody as we can. If we could, for 1 second, I will recommend that if you hear your point already brought up, repeating it probably isn't the best idea, because we want to get through everybody. You can say, I agree with somebody who spoke earlier, and leave it at that. We get it. So you don't have to repeat the same point 13 times, but you can just refer to it. We're great with that. But we want to make sure we get through everybody. And again, if you are on Zoom, just so one hand just finally pop up there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there'll be others as well.
Would you reread what we're voting on and talking about tonight? You have two different ones out. I'd like to hear the latest one.
There's no latest one.
Would you read what we're talking about?
Carla, could you?
Yeah, there's only one draft local law, so I don't know what the comment is, and I don't know who's speaking. So that was Paul?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, there's only one draft local law that's out there. So what it does is section 40, it's chapter 45, article 1 of the village code, and section 45(1), the only thing that was changed in there was that we included the language of hold office as a member of the planning board or zoning board of appeals, and then removed the language saying they could live within the county of Saratoga, and included language that said they must reside within the village, obviously, but also the towns of Ballston, Milton, or Malta. I then repealed, the next section was repealed. Section 45-3, the definition was repealed because it just talked about village office, and that's already in state law. Section 45(4), the modification supersession of the statute, that's just a renumbering. And then the next section is a new section 45(5), and it says, and I can read it out loud as follows if you'd like. It's entitled Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals Members. Notwithstanding the limitations contained in section 45-1, any planning board or zoning board of appeals member who resides outside the village of Ballston Spa but within Saratoga County as of the effective date of this section shall be considered eligible to hold the office until the end of the term, but shall not be eligible for reappointment unless they reside within the village. This law shall be deemed retroactive to the date they were appointed to their office, and all actions they performed prior to the date of this law shall be deemed to be done with legal authority.
That was changed from having just the town of Ballston, the town of Milton, and the town of Malta. It was
So
changed.
I just wanna make sure that we're following the process of a public hearing. So the public is going to speak, and then we can just take notes down. The law that was in the law that's been out there has not changed from 2 weeks ago.
I grabbed it
So
directly from Carla grabbed it directly from your email to Rebecca on Friday, so unless something was wrong with that version, that's what I posted up, so.
I don't know what version you're looking at then, because the version that was to be voted on is the version that was available 2 weeks ago.
Well, no, there would be no voting on it, but at least
Well,
discuss.
eventually, if there was a vote. Discuss.
Just to, hold on a second here, just want to make sure. The one I posted up has provided he, she, they resides within the towns of Ballston, Milton, or Malta. Planning board, zoning board. Definitions shall be repealed, modifications supersede statute in terms of numbering. Yeah, that's what you just read, correct, all that.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
where did you see?
What day was that changed from the Milton, Ballston, and Malta to the whole county?
No. There's confusion. The current code says the whole county. The draft code is removing the whole county and limiting it to the towns of Ballston, Milton, or Malta.
So currently the clerk, the treasurer could come from anywhere in Saratoga County is what the way it was written in 1992. What we're saying is we're going to unify residency into a smaller area for those, but a larger area for planning and zoning, so that it is the tri-town area only for both of those categories of village office. See how confusing this whole thing was?
Well, who
Can we do the public hearing? Is that what we're doing?
I do. I just want to make sure he's not confusing
I
us.
am. Who can sit on the planning and zoning board?
Currently,
No, if you vote on this sometime.
if this version is approved, it would be the towns of Ballston, Milton, Malta.
Only.
Except the individuals, except the current planning and zoning board members that are on the board. If they reside outside the village or within the county, they are permitted to stay until the end of their term for continuity.
So for instance, Mike is in Monroe, he can finish out his term in 2029. Okay, now I saw a hand, or two or three, we'll start Merrill.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Stevenson, 45 West High Street. I'm a resident of the village of Ballston Spa, living in the town of Ballston. I'm also a voter in the village and in the town of Ballston. I'm opposed to the change of residency requirements for the planning board and zoning board of appeals appointees. And that's really the only thing that I'm opposed to. The appointees for these boards really must be legal residents of the village. Legal appointees to these boards are paid and really should be selected for merit, for the skills they possess and that can bring to the board and to village issues. Both boards serve very important roles in carrying out land use plans, building and zoning code amendments, enforcing the zoning code, following the direction of the village's comprehensive plan, a document developed to guide the village's future development for the next decade. The ZBA also serves in a special capacity for hearing requests for variances from the zoning code and for appeals on adverse decisions. I think you send the wrong message to village residents when you advocate for nominees and appointees outside of the village. And I think this residency change is not good for the planning board and the zoning board of appeals. I really don't have a problem with the other committees. That's not what we're talking about tonight, but the planning board and zoning board really are very key boards in the village, and those people that are appointed to those boards must be village residents. You're really saying that you don't trust village residents, to do the right thing as appointees to the board. If you advocate for appointees outside of the village, I think you're really opening yourself up to bringing concerns about special interests that might be making decisions, land use decisions within the village. And I don't think that's, the optics are good there. I don't think someone from the town of Malta has any business making land use decisions in the village of Ballston Spa. Instead, what I would say to the trustees, open up the whole nomination process, not only for the board members, for the planning board and the zoning board of appeals, but for all committees. The last recollection I have, it's been probably about 2 years ago, when there was an open solicitation for nominations for all village committees. So please consider doing that rather than passing this. And once you do that, communicate progress about people who are self-nominating themselves for these committee assignments. Select legal residents, do it on the merits of the person's qualifications and their skills and experiences. I think there's an opportunity out there that you have not tapped into. Thank you.
Just to clarify one thing there, Marilyn, this does not apply to the Ethics Board. This does not apply to the Historic District Commission. They have their own rules with respect to residency. Ethics is inside the village. HDC is within the village, but 2 members have to be residents of the HD, the Historic District itself. So just to be clear on that. Next up, we'll go to Zoom. Just to knock that out.
Nathan Ward.
Nathan?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi,
Yes.
Nathan Ward, 1 Hyde Boulevard. I moved to the village in 2019 and quickly became an active member of the community. I joined the BSBPA and I applied to an open alternate position on the planning board in 2021. Mayor Woolbright appointed me to the planning board as an alternate. I went to nearly every meeting to gain experience, even though I was not required to attend as an alternate, as said by the chairperson. I took my position seriously and considered applications fairly with respect to the village code and reviewed all the applications before each meeting, so I was ready to be a voting member if I was required. In 2025, I suddenly was replaced as an alternate with no explanation or communication from the chairperson or the mayor. From my perspective, there was no reasonable explanation for why I was replaced as an engaged and active participant alternate member, other than having a different perspective from other board members and the mayor. Since it came now to light that current planning board members are not village residents, it makes my replacement frustrating and disappointing, as I would have happily continued to serve the planning board. If the mayor's goal is to have experienced residents on the zoning and planning boards, then the mayor shouldn't be replacing alternates that have been serving for 4 years without a valid reason. If the mayor wants experienced residents to serve on the zoning and planning boards, then he should emphasize mentoring of alternates and village residents who would be capable of serving in the future. If the mayor wanted village residents on the zoning and planning boards, he should advertise open positions thoroughly with enough time for residents to consider the openings and apply. I am confident there are enough qualified village residents to fill these boards. The answer is not to open up board membership to non-village residents. Thank you.
Next in the house. Yes. John, I saw you.
John, go.
Please, I saw you this evening.
John Comby, 132 Bath Street. As far as appointed officials who have need special training, and in order to fill their jobs, such as the building inspector or the treasurer, or what have you, those people, I can see taking a broader area. Even cities do that as well. There's nothing really unusual about that. But for the members of boards within the village, the volunteer positions, I have two thoughts. First of all, when we were talking about this issue in the Master Plan Committee, I think it was in the July meeting, we determined that it was very important to have these positions available because those are the positions that village residents would take to introduce them to how the government works. Also, those positions are positions that sort of create a breeding ground, if you will, for people who wish to be involved more intensely with the village and run for office. So those boards are excellent training positions, have excellent training positions. The other thing is, at some point in time, the folks in Albany are going to understand that one of the costs of upstate New York are all these municipalities, in supporting all these separate municipalities. And I doubt that the legislature is going to actually axe them, but they may start doing things like saying, well, if a municipality is not really able to support itself, maybe it's not going to be getting grants. Maybe we're going to force the economic question as to whether they're going to exist or not. And one of the things that we'll probably be looking at is to see if they must go outside their boundaries to fill their boards. If they have to do that, then perhaps the municipality should not exist. And I think that is a major problem that we have to look at in the future. And Ballston Spa has almost 5,000 people in it, has some really talented, very, very aware people in the village. So really, it shouldn't be difficult to fill the volunteer boards. Thank you.
Next up, Lisa, go ahead.
Lisa Spidell, resident of the Village of Ballston Spa and homeowner. I'm on the town of Milton side, and an address that I'll make known to the clerk. In reading the function of the zoning and planning boards in the Village of Ballston Spa, I see nothing that requires a special education or knowledge set to make decisions on behalf of all residents in the village. An individual that resides within the boundaries are the most likely to understand the consequences, good or bad, of decision-making that affects the daily living of those that travel, walk, occupy space on a regular basis for the majority of their time. It is where we have to put our head down at night and where we have to navigate from point A to point B, deal with our neighbors, noise, infrastructure, use of resources, and enjoyment of green space. I find the proposal of this land law a bit disconcerting. Why it was proposed in the first place, I question that. And I have to just add a little bit here. John just said something, and in the little back of my head here, dissolution. And that scares me because we're a little village. I moved here because it's small. I wanted to stay small. I don't want to be this big Malta, Milton, that big nightmare intersection that's being created and all the housing. I don't want to be that. Who better to make decisions on behalf of all residents than those that choose to make their home here? If they want to be on our boards, then move here and be a part of what makes this village a home to so many. Home being the key word. This isn't just a place to live. If we wanted to do that, we could go anywhere. Otherwise, if you live outside, I can only ascertain there is something you don't like about the Village of Ballston Spa, or it doesn't fit your needs, and I don't want an outsider making decisions that may affect my daily life, and I don't want that on my behalf. Thank you.
What's up with Zoom?
Keith Lewis.
Oh, let's enjoy that. Bye.
Where'd it go? Oh, there we go.
Keith
Hi,
Lewis, 38 East High Street, Ballston Spa. Uh, The board was elected by 5,000 residents of the village of Ballston Spa, the pool of 5,000, and those residents expect you to put their interests first. They didn't vote to give away their voice on land use decisions to people who don't live here, don't pay village taxes, and don't have to live with the consequences of these boards' decisions. Today, the Times Union said the proposal that you're making will add 47,000 people, diluting the Ballston Spa residents to just 10% of the pool. Let's be clear about what's happening. This is not just about fixing a long-standing problem or expanding the pool in Saratoga County. There is no village of our size that opens up both its planning board and its zoning board to non-residents the way this proposal does. Where there are exceptions, it's tiny villages that are narrow, and they do not sit alongside a major zoning rewrite that will shape the future of this village for decades. You're being asked to make Ballston Spa an outlier, not to match common practice. Land use professionals see how dangerous this is. One experienced planner who serves as immediate past president of the New York Planning Federation wrote publicly on the mayor's Facebook page that it is, quote, highly irregular for planning or zoning board members not to reside in the municipality they serve, and that it is in general contravention of village law's basic expectations. He pointed out that this is one of the first things the Department of State hammers into board members at training. These boards are supposed to be made up of the people who are governed by their decisions. He offered a constructive alternative. If you truly feel you need more expertise or institutional knowledge, hire professional consultants paid for by applicants through escrow. That's how it's done everywhere else. Expertise can be bought. Democratic legitimacy cannot. The legitimacy comes from the fact that the people who vote on these projects live here. They pay village taxes. They walk past the consequences every day. There's also a basic fairness point your own residents deeply understand. A village resident like Trustee Perez can sit on the Milton Planning Board because she lives in the town of Milton. The owner of her home pays taxes to Milton. That's appropriate. She's part of the community who rules she helps shape. But the reverse is not true. Someone who lives outside the village boundary in the town of Milton does not pay village taxes and should not enjoy the privilege of sitting on a village board that controls village land use. That's why it's different. Your residents see that distinction very clearly. Now, add to this the retroactive piece. This law doesn't just open the door to non-residents in the future, it reaches back and declares that past actions by non-resident members shall be deemed to be done with legal authority. That's a direct attack on residents' due process rights. People who may have been harmed by an illegally constituted board, as the mayor has told us this evening, after the fact, they can't challenge those decisions because you changed the story. That's not what good government looks like. And it's not what the residents want. They put you in office. They don't want you stripping them of their rights. And it carries real exposure. You're putting in writing that you are aware non-residents are serving now, that the law did not permit it when they were appointed, and that your solution is not to correct it, but declare it retroactively lawful. That invites legal challenges, it invites financial costs, and it guarantees that every controversial board decision will be viewed with suspicion. Was they stacking the deck with people who don't answer to village voters? Will be the question they ask. Finally, you should know your constituents are paying attention and are prepared to act. At least 22 village residents, Republicans and Democrats, have already pledged up to $500 each to support strong challengers against any trustee who votes for this law. It's not about personality. It's not about party. It's about whether you're willing to put non-residents above your own residents. Thank you.
Next. Oh,
Paul Farnan, 27 McLean Street. Let me make one point that was just set up here on the speaker. The state put in a word into the planning and zoning laws, and that word is de facto. De facto means a person that's sitting on the board legally at one time, but now illegal. And the reason he was illegal is maybe he moved out of town. So the state put in a law de facto saying that even though that person is sitting on the board illegally now, all his votes previously are legal. And that was to keep all the confusion from going on of being sued, confusing the planning board and zoning board. Okay, so when you put in there backdating it, that just moved. You're already covered by the state law. I don't agree with what you're trying to do here about having board members outside of the village on this planning board and zoning board. That's not what the village wanted. If you want to do that, remember you have 3 strong boards here, the planning board, the zoning board, and the village board. They're the ones that run this village, and they're the ones that do the voting. The village clerk and all those other ones, they don't vote. These boards do. So if you're gonna give up 2/3 of the strongest boards we have here, the planning and zoning, outside of this village, you might as well take the next step, which is pretty simple. Dissolve the village. And that's where you're heading. You might as well dissolve the village, like the town of Milton, everything south of East High Street, go to the town of Ballston, everything north of East High and West High Street, go to the town of Milton, and be done with it. The village then will pay absolutely 0 village taxes. You still pay your sewer and water, but you will pay no village taxes, and the towns will take them over. That's the direction you're heading. Now we have old people, I'm not saying you're old, experienced people on the board and new ones. You have something to think about. Where do you want this village to go and how do you want it to look? And if you vote for this, you might as well dissolve the village, because everybody outside at one time or another, the planning and zoning board could be totally outside of this village. As the turnover comes up, you can vote for the people outside the village, and you won't have a person on the board that resides in this village. Think hard at what you're doing.
Mike?
Thank you. Good evening. Mike Iacolucci, 3 Encore Drive. I have not been available to participate in the meetings earlier in January. I want to congratulate newly installed trustees Dubuque and Ducklebarger on their election. I also want to wish all of you a Happy New Year. The proposed law will allow individuals who are not residents of the village to participate directly in village business, especially relating to planning and zoning. I am all in favor of allowing stakeholders the opportunity to share input on matters important to them. However, as long as village and board meetings remain open to the public, everyone who is interested in a matter has the right to speak about that matter. I agree with a couple other speakers who talked about the difference between an appointed employee position and an appointed board position, and I think they are very different. Given the many questions that have arisen over the last 12 to 18 months concerning zoning, I think it's imperative that planning and zoning board members be fully aware of how community members feel about the issues before those boards. Input from people with a stake in the community should be heard, but decisions around those issues should be made by village residents. The village lies within 2 towns and abuts a third. The Village of Ballston Spa, like all villages under New York State law, enjoys a number of rights and privileges that are not afforded other municipalities. Part of that unique structure is the basic idea of self-determination. That is, the original intent behind authorizing the formation of villages was to allow residents of a small area to control decisions that affect them. The mayor has brought up the idea of reciprocity relating to who can serve on various boards. Again, that's been touched on. I'll reiterate, I agree that they're completely different. The key element that the mayor seems not to have mentioned is that to serve on the committee of a town, that person needs to be a resident of that town. In recent days, the mayor has indicated that he needs to, quote, fix a long-standing problem, unquote, and that the idea behind the proposed law, quote, is to try to get a better pool, unquote. I believe the problem that he sees is that few people volunteer to serve on various boards, and he apparently feels that those people who have indicated an interest in serving on a board are not good enough. I think there are many village residents good enough to serve on boards, and I'll leave my comments on that point there. With respect to the idea that few people have volunteered to serve on village boards, I want to point out that many people in the village are unaware of openings on boards and even which boards exist. I do not think anyone will disagree with the statement that village board meetings over the last few years have been contentious. Some people who have chosen to speak at village board meetings have seen their words and their character treated with scorn. I think many people, in reaction to what they have seen and heard, have been reluctant to become involved. I asked the village board to consider the fact that in last November's election, approximately 40% of the people who turned out to vote did not vote for either of the two candidates for trustee. I think it's clear that many people in the village feel that things need to be done going forward. In December, a beloved member of the community and past mayor of the village passed away. Everyone, including the mayor, applauded this person for her honesty and integrity and for her dedication to improving Ballston Spa. In her spirit, I encourage the board to hear what people are saying about this proposed law and consider it carefully. I believe that each of you should explain your position on this proposed law and why you feel the way you do. Thank you.
Carrie Kirkland.
Thank you. Go ahead, Carrie.
Sorry, can folks hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry to be bumbling with the controls. I feel like they change them every time. I don't mean you guys, I mean Zoom. So, my name's Carrie Curvin. I'm 17 McMaster Street. I'm a 20-something year resident of the village and until recently was a member of the ethics committee. I can't improve on what the first several people said about the importance of the village residents having a voice, of our taxes having a lot to do with our right to make decisions that affect us, and that we are the ones who live with the consequences. I can only underline that. I think all of those folks were absolutely right. Mr. Cromie made an excellent point that I had not thought of about sovereignty and about the future of where small villages, much like small school districts, are going. And while I hadn't thought of that, I think he's got a really good point, and that we should beware of things that reduce our own influence within our own village. One thing I have learned from volunteering and working and attending meetings and doing things in the village is the tremendous number of people who volunteer for everything under the sun. The ethics committee being a small example, I served with really dedicated people who, in areas where we did not have expertise, were willing to learn. And I think what I've taken away from that time around local government, not in it, is that so much of what is done in this village, in this county, in this state is done by well-meaning amateurs who either gain their expertise by diving in and studying, and supplement that by paying for it, as somebody, I think it was Mr. Lewis, said, that is a resource that board members are able to avail themselves of because we can't know everything. The mayor mentioned the recent publicity from the newspapers, and I have to say, I think in this situation, publicity is exactly what we need. If the difficulty, as the previous speaker said, is that a lot of people don't even know these boards exist, then what you do is you publicize it, you broaden the pool of people who are appropriate to serve on these boards, and you ask for participation. And I think that's the opposite of cronyism, and I think that's how you would avoid accusations or even the appearance of cronyism. I think that's really important. I'm hoping that the publicity that has been generated lately will produce an outpouring of people who are interested in serving, and particularly with the cooperative spirit and kindness and decency that everyone wants to see from village government, that I've witnessed personally in the ethics committee, and that sometimes we don't see, and boy, would we like to. So thank you to the previous speakers. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Christina Moss. I'm 17 East High Street, so I live in the village of Ballston Spa in the town of Milton. I agree with what almost everybody, pretty much everybody has gone before me has said. I think we all know zoning and planning are super important boards, that they guide the look, the feel, the quality of life here in the village, and it's important. What I did spend some time today doing was trying to figure out where it's been advertised ever about open positions, how people apply, how they figure out what to do. And I found on the village page, the community interest form, which does say the committees and boards, and it lists zoning and planning on there. So if I didn't know anything else, I might find that. I couldn't find anything else. I searched through all the news. I actually sat there today while the kids were outside playing in snow, through like 20 pages of village news, and could not find. I found something about openings for the Community on the Arts, and I found openings for, there was something else, but the ZAC. But I could not find any news thing saying, hey, we're looking for people to apply for the zoning and planning boards. I then was scrolling through the village Facebook page. I'm like, okay, let me see if they post anything there. And I did find one, and it was December 27th, 2023. And it said, if you are interested, we have openings, please apply by December 31st. And I think we understand that that is not really the ideal way of like looking for people. So while, I think my personal opinion is that the village zoning and planning board should have village residents on them. I don't think you've made the case that the pool isn't big enough yet. I think that it hasn't been opened enough. The ability to communicate with all the village residents, not on Facebook, however that might be. Can you send letters? Can there be a village email list that you can put your email on if you want notifications from the village? Other ways to communicate. So I think that's one thing that we are lacking, is good communication from the board and what's going on to the residents. There's a lot of people that don't know, and a lot of people that avoid things on Facebook intentionally. And so knowing what's going on really is half the battle for, I think, so many of the residents here. And I think that you have not given that a fair chance yet. The only other thing I would say is that I also do think that if it has been proven and demonstrated that there is not enough people willing to serve in this village, by actually asking all the residents and not just recruiting from the people already here on the board, that there are limitations. That, at least the majority of these boards be village residents. Think about what limitations, what guardrails should we put on that? So you don't end up with a board that consists of people that don't live here. I understand, the village is the town of Ballston and the town of Milton, it's not Malta. You know, Malta feels very different. That should that even be included? Just because it's nearby doesn't mean they need to, you know, be part of this too. So, I do think it's a very, very important thing, and I think that the case has not been made for this law yet. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes.
Richard Bashon, Chapman's.
Out of transparency, Rich is one of the two people that actually have shown possible interest in his correspondence with us. Thank you.
Expose me.
I knew we were going to see Rich.
Richard Bashon, Chapman Street, Village of Ballston Spa. And yes, I did, for my, I consider it. You did get my attention, Mayor, when you spoke of the experience we could be losing. And so I can really understand that, but to speak to that issue, I would just say, I can think of a lot of experiences I've been involved with where I've stepped off a committee or others have stepped off a committee and they've stayed on as an advisory role and they can provide support and their knowledge and their experience in a non-voting member, a non-voting way to help kind of that continuity you spoke to. And so I think are ways to do that, to keep some of that knowledge. But, you know, to echo what everyone has said already, there's a big difference when you're a big difference from a paid employee to a decision maker. And if you're a decision maker, you should live in the village. So that's what I'll have to say. Thank you.
Next up, Liz.
Liz Cormos, 89 High. I want to speak tonight about the residency requirements of our Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals under the New York State Village Law and our own law. Village Law, Section 3-300 says that unless otherwise provided by law, a village officer must be a village resident. This is the baseline for planning and zoning board members. We have appropriately carved out some of the operational positions like treasurer, etc., to be filled by non-residents. And I think that could go all the way to Saratoga County. It doesn't need to be limited, which is common and practical. Many other towns and villages do that. But we have never done that for our land use boards, and for good reason. A valued planning board member moved out of the village. I want to make it clear, I have no objection to allowing that long-serving member, Mike McNamara, to complete his term. He has served for a number of years and has contributed significantly. I support a narrow change that would allow a legally appointed sitting member who is out of the village but within Saratoga County after having at least 1 year of service to finish their term. However, the mayor has gone much further. Instead of a limited fix for an existing member, this proposal opens the door to non-residents to be appointed to our planning boards and zoning boards as a matter of course. And this was done even before properly posting and advertising these positions. On top of that, the appointment of Matt Berkeline as a full planning board member at the January 1st, 2026 organizational meeting appears to conflict with our existing law. Since he listed his residence as being the town of Ballston, not the village, as early as January 2025. We've also been told that a lot of municipalities waive the residency requirements for these boards. That is misleading. Only a very small number of municipalities in Saratoga County have actually adopted laws allowing non-residents to serve on their planning and zoning boards. There are 2 villages and 1 town. Over half of Saratoga's 30 municipalities have a smaller population than the village of Ballston Spa. 8 of the towns are smaller than Ballston Spa. All the towns except 1, Galway, which actually does limit for planning board to residents, still follow the state default. Planning and zoning members must be residents. These boards make critical decisions about development, neighborhood character, and quality of life. The people making those decisions should live with the consequences of them. Board members should be village residents, accountable to village voters, and invested in the long-term future of Ballston Spa. For these reasons, I propose changes in 45-1 and deletion of 45-3 as drafted. Instead, I recommend two clear principles. First, planning board and zoning board of appeals members must be village residents at the time they are appointed. This should be spelled out. Second, if a sitting member has served at least 1 year and then moves out of the village, they may complete the remainder of their current term as long as they move within Saratoga County, but may not be reappointed unless they reside in the village. This standard should be stated plainly in our local law and mirrored in our new zoning code to avoid confusion. I agree with the mayor, it was very difficult to track this through all these state laws. This gives us flexibility to handle real-world situations while preserving the core idea that land use decisions in Ballston Spa should be made by the people who live here.
Thanks.
Hello, Ben Baskin, 60 Ballston Ave, and I'll say congratulations to Trustees Dubuque and Dunkelberger as well, and Happy New Year. And Mike is a good example for how to be a nice person. I'd like to I'd like the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals, or ZBA, to be comprised of village residents only, as it always has been. Village residents have more of a personal stake in the development of this village. Their quality of life and future depend on it. Village residents will have to live every day with the consequences of their development decisions. They are accountable to their neighbors in a way that outside people are not. They also know what their neighbors and other residents want for development better than outside people, business people or property owners who don't actually live here. And I also agree with Mr. Cromie's point that these boards are great training grounds for additional participation by these residents. Furthermore, there's no documented need to extend membership beyond the village. Historically, the mayor has not advertised open board and committee positions, despite repeated requests. So we have no idea what the actual level of interest is for these boards. When Sean, Liz, and I were in the majority on the board, we did push to advertise board and committee positions and created an application form. And in 2024, there were dozens of people who submitted forms and indicated interest in joining the planning board or ZBA. So that tells us there's a good pool of people to choose from right here in the village, at least as of 2024, and we should do that again. Despite what was said at the last meeting, the vast majorities, like Liz said, of municipalities restrict membership on these boards to their own residents, and Ballston Spa would be a significant outlier if it changed. Just because the administration in the 90s opened up administrative positions to Saratoga County residents, such as clerk and treasurer and deputy clerk, et cetera, doesn't mean we should do that for planning board and zoning board members. There's a world of difference between administrative positions and policy positions, as people have said. Planning board and ZBA members make policy decisions, the clerk and treasurer don't. There are excellent reasons why the 1990s law purposefully did not extend beyond administrators. They are completely different kinds of positions. And there's really no confusion about that. It was probably done very purposefully. If you make this unwise change, and I don't recommend you do, I do agree, well, first of all, I do agree with what Liz said about changing the law so that someone who is a resident here, when they get appointed and then move afterwards, if they've been a member for a year, could stay on to finish their term at least, even though they're not in the village. I think that does make sense. The other things you can consider, again, I don't think you should do this, but the least you could do if you're going to make changes to this law is to stipulate that the chair must be from the village and the majority of board members must be from the village. Again, I think the entire boards of both boards should be from the village, but you should at least think about those possibilities. That would be the least you could do if you're set to make this change. So for all these reasons, village residents make the most knowledgeable, motivated members for these boards. There's no need to look outside the village for board members. The vast majority of municipalities have chosen to keep these boards for their residents. We should keep the planning board and zoning board to village residents. Thank you.
See hand, Jordan.
Good evening. Jared Icolucci, 24 Chapman Street. I'm against this new local law. This proposed legislation is not needed and would contradict the aims of this village as they're articulated in the comprehensive plan. I'm not going to reinforce all of the points about the difference between employees and board members. I agree with what all of our prior speakers have said. I will emphasize that I believe it's important that the members of these boards are accountable to their local neighbors. Now, at least 3 people, according to reporting, have expressed interest in joining these boards. I was one of those. 2 more, it sounds like, have since expressed their interest. We have 2 committees who are focused on land use, the Zoning Advisory Committee and the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. I suspect the members of those committees would also be interested. The reality is that we simply can't know how many other residents are interested because there has been no outreach. The failure of this board to do any outreach before proposing this significant legislative change implies that this board is not interested in finding village residents for these positions. The bottom line is that recent history has proven there are residents who are capable, experienced, and interested in volunteering their time on these boards. The Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee spent 2 years successfully producing a widely supported comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2023. The Zoning Advisory Committee was on track to produce an updated code before being unceremoniously disbanded by the chair against the will of that committee's majority. The village should be encouraging this type of participation from residents, not only for the immediate need, but to help prepare the village for the future by giving residents opportunities for direct participation in government. The comprehensive plan states, quote, about 1/3 of the village is between the ages of 18 and 49. The village should encourage the next generation to be involved in decision-making and implement a process to bring new faces and voices onto village volunteer boards. Many in this age group are busy with jobs and kids, so outreach must be done in places where it can be effective, end quote. Unfortunately, there was no outreach before the media attention forced outreach through the mayor's personal Facebook page. Instead of outsourcing decision-making, the village needs to follow the comprehensive plan and adopt a clear process by which opportunities are advertised through official village channels and applicants are processed through an objective, non-political selection process. Thank you.
Thanks. Sean?
Sean Raymond, 7 Chesterwood Court. A little different from this, been a while. Okay. I was a bit surprised to find this amendment to our local law being considered, since it was about a month or so ago when the idea of allowing non-residents to serve on the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals was floated via email, and 4 board members, including 2 that currently serve on the board, were clearly not in favor of this change. I can only assume the mayor is revisiting this because now he must have the votes. Virtually all municipalities in New York State require residency to serve on the Planning Board or Zoning Board of Appeals because they defer to state law for good reason. The reason being is that having people deciding what is to be built in your village or town without living there is a terrible idea. Quite literally, it is not in their backyard, so they don't have to live with the repercussions. I oppose this amendment because it's premature. I'm sure we could find qualified candidates for the seats on these boards from the 3,000 plus eligible residents in Ballston Spa to select from. Having been a trustee about a month ago, I know for a fact that no exhaustive search for candidates had been conducted as of December. No search had even started. The only reason I can surmise for proposing this amendment that the former board shot down is the mayor is aware he illegally appointed a non-resident to the planning board and now is trying to remedy that breach of law. I can only wonder why the mayor would go to such lengths to remove residency requirements when he could simply pick someone else from the large pool of residents. The only reason I can come up with is the mayor wants Matt Erkeline on the planning board no matter what, even if it means stripping away residents' rights to self-representation. That is not what a good public servant does to their constituents. I believe the mayor is willing to break our laws and to go to such lengths to amend that law because he wants to have Matt Erkeline take over his chair of the planning board at some point. It has all the appearances of a quid pro quo, since Matt Erkeline ran interference as chair of the Zoning Advisory Committee, not allowing residents on that committee to create zoning that truly reflected our comprehensive plan by dissolving that committee prematurely with no authority to do so. That alone should exclude him from serving on any village board, even if he were a resident. In conclusion, there is absolutely no need to allow non-residents to serve on these boards currently. So there is no need for this amendment, other than the mayor's desire to pursue his personal agenda for the village rather than the people's agenda. Thank you.
Easy.
Yep, come on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Kamran Parwana, 86 South Street. I am a resident of the village. I'll also note that I am a current member of the ZBA. I agree with the majority of the speakers who have been against this measure, but I also want to note that I'm really concerned about some of the statements that the mayor has made in the media, and on social media about the requirements for serving on these boards. And I'd like to ask 4 simple questions. First of all, Mayor Rossi, what do you consider to be the actual qualifications for serving on these boards? Second, how do the current members of the planning and zoning boards actually measure up to those requirements? Third, what do you consider to be the attendance requirements for members and alternates for the zoning and planning boards? And fourth, how do the current members of the zoning and planning boards actually measure up to those attendance records? Thanks.
Next. Who else up there?
Yep, Ellis.
Go ahead.
Hi, all. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks so much. Courtney Ellis, 68 Chapman Street, Ballston Spa. I just wanted to take a moment and echo what the fellow residents have been saying. I've been listening to the comments tonight, reading comments online. We're all calling for the same thing, unification around village planning at the hands of our residents. We're often divided in our village of friends, but this issue seems to be bypassing political affiliation and uniting us as a small but very mighty population. I echo the residents who spoke before me, expressing concern over having individuals who do not reside here or pay taxes here to serve on a planning capacity. We have a really special space that deserves stewardship from residents who are keenly aware of the challenges, opportunities, and consideration for future growth and development. As a side note, I am also unclear of the qualifications and requirements to serve on the board or a planning board, any capacity, any board. Super happy to do so. So if we could make that clear and ask for participants, I think we would have a ton of turnout in our village of friends that has a lot of excitement and volunteer support for all of the things we do. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks. Yes.
Hi, Alex Funicello, 60 Hyde. I had a big thing written, but I think most of it's been said so far. The one thing that I wanted to add or expand upon is that I think the issue of the village pool of people not getting the turnout that you want, I think it's more of a problem with both communication and the way that people who try to get involved have been treated in this village. So on Facebook, I've raised this problem before. I deleted Facebook. The only reason why I am back on Facebook is because I can't participate in village politics like everybody else if I'm not there. I think most of my friends aren't on Facebook, and so to hear the discussions about these with the mayor, all those communications are happening on a private platform that we have to join on. And if that's where these positions are advertised and shared, we're not gonna know about it. And then additionally, those people that get involved experience horrible treatment. My wife last night, she has no idea who Keith Lewis is. She asked me after she made the comment. She witnessed the mayor telling him that his face was so ugly, AI couldn't fix it. So do you think she wants to speak up in this meeting when she hears treatment like that online? Do you think she wants to be on a board when she hears treatment like that online? And again, I get there's personal background and everything like that, but if that's an official mayoral page, communications drive people like me and my wife out of village politics. I'll say, like, again, we don't know Keith. In this meeting even, his time to speak, we got to hear a little snide remark about Keith. Well, I don't know who he is. I mean, I've met him before. I don't agree with him, but why, after hearing treatment like that, would I want to come up here and speak? Since what I'm saying isn't agreeable, next time I come up and speak, do I get treated that way because I'm not agreeing with what you said? It's just, I don't understand how you expect to fill the seats if people that try to be involved get treated like this. We heard from Nathan. He had a similar standpoint. He was so excited about that position. In our friend group, he's talking about it all the time, sharing details, and then I turned to complaining about how he didn't know when meetings were anymore because he wasn't invited. And then he was removed from the position. We talked when he meant because he had no idea why he was being removed from that position. And then I've had other friends, very similar stories. They tried to be active in boards, felt like they were pressured out of the board, and never got anywhere with it. And then myself, as a member of the Water Advisory Committee, I also felt pressure from people, both online every time I spoke up and presented my opinion, and family of the mayor approaching me and telling me that if I made decisions that were financially not beneficial to her, I would be doxxed to people she knew and would get calls at all hours and told that I made the wrong decision. So things like that are why you can't fill it with inside the village. And I think that the communication and the general feeling from both parties, everybody involved, needs to change if you want people to be involved.
Next up. Mike.
Mike McNamara, planning board member, 41 Iris Avenue, South Glens Falls. Sorry, there it is.
Monroe or South Glens Falls?
What's that?
Is it Monroe or South Glens Falls in the end up?
It's both, actually.
Gotcha.
It's in the town of Monroe. So there it is. You know, I'm a big part of the reason for all the fuss tonight. I can appreciate all the comments. I really can. I think those are reasonable initial reactions. I'm going to throw another point of view out because I think it's healthy to have different points of view and to think things through from a lot of different angles. So I'll do that and let the chips fall where they may. So, for the record, I have always been open about my situation. When I came to the village and told them that I was moving, they did ask if I was interested in continuing to serve. They had looked into it. There was some time lapse between when I announced that and when they got back to me. I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, but I told them, sure, you know, I'll continue to do so. And I'm still willing to do so, but I understand you have to pass this legislation for it to continue. The way I look at it, you have to ask yourself two questions. Can we pass this, and should we pass this? So the answer to the first one, I think that's an easy yes. You know, and don't take it from me, and don't take it from anyone else that has been on this side of the table. You have an attorney, and your attorney is telling you you can do it. So as to whether or not you should do it, that really goes to the question of, is it a good idea to have your board members live in the village? Of course it is. It is a good idea. You want your board members, first of all, to understand and be familiar with the properties that they're looking at. You want them to have a connection to the village, to the people that are in the village. You want them to understand the history, the traditions, and some of the intangibles that make Ballston Spa what it is. All of that is important. Okay, those are qualifications for a good board member, but it's not all of them, and they're not necessarily even most of them. So you have life experiences, you have demeanor, someone's sense of fairness in approaching things, their knowledge and experiences. You know, those are all very important factors too. And you really need all of that to be a good board member. So I've lived in the village I lived in the village for over 50 years. I forgot what I was going to say about that. I lived in the village for over 50 years. My parents still live here. In the summer, I play golf every week with friends in the village. I ski a couple times a week with friends in the village. I go to the dentist here, I do my banking here, I still go to the restaurants here. So I do have a connection to the village. You know, the legislation that's proposed does not compel you to take people from outside of the village. It's a tool. You know, I mean, I'm sure now you would get many applications, but the reality is that'll fade over time, and it is hard to find people to do these things that not only live in the village, but also have some of the more technical qualifications and experience to do it. So this is a tool that gives you that option, and why wouldn't you want to have that option? Ask yourself this question: am I perhaps a better candidate for a board member than someone who just had their 18th birthday and moved into the village a week ago? Because that's what the residency requirement boils down to, just that. It's not just the black and white of the residency requirement that's important. It's the kind of person that residency makes you into. I grew up in this village. It's all over me. It's who I am. So I would say that I think it's something you should consider to pass this because it does give you other options. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike. Second, go up on Zoom.
Yep, Kristen Ikuchi.
Hello, this is Kristen Icolucci, 24 Chapman Street. I would just like to say that I do not support passing this law. I think there's a wide pool of candidates that reside currently in the village that have more than enough qualifications, more than enough passion for the village that would be willing to serve. And a lot of the speakers here, the overwhelming majority of speakers that do not feel that a new law is necessary for us to have more members with varied opinions to serve on our planning and zoning boards. So I encourage all of the trustees to listen to all of the speakers here, not just those that you might agree with, but all of the speakers, and do not pass this law tonight, and listen to the village residents here, and village decisions should be made by us village residents. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jean Relier, a 33-year resident of the village of Ballston Spa. I live at 108 Malta Avenue. I wasn't going to speak because everybody said what I was thinking, but I want to follow up with something that Michael said. He said that over time, the pool of applicants is going to fade away. I'd like to know why you think that, or why.
You can't. You want me to?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, and then I guess my other question is, or my thought is, I think the pool of applicants, just like everyone has said, would be much broader if there was some communication about it that other people have brought up. And I guess my question, Mr. Mayor, is why aren't there, or why isn't there information about these positions made public?
Thank you.
I just asked you a question.
I don't answer questions.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. next.
Erin McCready had her hand up. There she is. Okay, I accidentally lowered it for her. I didn't mean to.
And Eric, we are in receipt of your email from earlier, just so you know.
Great. Hi, Erin McCready, 35 Hyde Boulevard. Just echoing what everybody else is saying here, that I just really don't agree with having any voting members from outside of the village for positions that are paid positions inside of the village that are non-voting. I honestly don't care where you live. You could live anywhere. But if you're voting on village land use items, I really think you should be a resident, just like most of the people are saying here. I was on the planning board for a short amount of time. The chairman asked me to apply. That's the only reason I had even realized that these types of positions existed. And honestly, I loved it. I thought it was great. It was really interesting. I got to meet a lot of really great neighbors and made new friends. You got to learn about new projects that were coming in before anybody else even heard about them. And I just want to say too, I served while Nathan served, and I was really sad to hear that Nathan was removed. I found him to be somebody that was really passionate while we were on the planning board together. There's always going to be difference of opinions, and sometimes emails can get heated, but I would rather have somebody that has the passion than somebody that kind of just sits back. He really showed up and did participate. I honestly was very surprised that somebody like him was removed. I personally would probably still be on the board myself, but it was a difference of opinion ultimately. And in the process, I was told that I was only allowed to share all information and ideas with the chairman and only the chairman. And just for me personally, I just wasn't okay with that. I would prefer to share in a way where all of the members would get the information at the same time. So I think ultimately, I'm just saying that these positions are really interesting positions. They're really valuable positions. I don't think that there's been adequate communication to the community on what these are, the types of people that you need to serve on here. I don't have any planning or zoning experience. I didn't have any planning or zoning experience when I was asked. I got positive feedback from the group on the type of information that I was contributing. And so, I think maybe being transparent about the requirements that you're really looking for could be helpful too. And that's it. Thank you.
What else? Cory.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Congratulations to the new members on your election. I'm sure you're overjoyed sitting here in this particular session, and I want to thank you for your patience and your willingness to listen to all points of view. Surprisingly, probably to the vast majority of people sitting up here, I actually agree with a great number of things that were said by the public. I do think that we have not done a real good job at letting people know that there are openings and need for volunteers to get involved in planning and zoning. Ironically, I've served now under 4 mayors. I started with John Romano. Following John was Larry Wilbright, Christine, God rest her soul, briefly, and now Frank Rossi. Working on the planning board is an extremely involved and detailed process. You have to have a willingness to get yourself educated. You have to take courses every year and provide proof of same. I'm proud to say that all the members of the planning board have done that. If you are an alternate, you have to attend every meeting, whether you vote or not. So there's a time commitment involved in these types of activities. And I think if we could get more people to be involved, which I think this event and this group discussion will generate, I believe the village will benefit. I also believe that the sky is not falling, which seems to be the general tone of people's comments here. The point is that if the base of the universe is broadened, the process remains the same. The applicant has to be vetted by the mayor and voted upon by the Board of Trustees. So if a person isn't qualified, no matter where they live, I don't believe they're going to get appointed. I think that's what your job is, and I think you all know that very well. My concern is only that, in my experience for the last, I don't want to admit how long, it's been well over 10 years. The number of people that have actually expressed interest and that were objective and qualified and not biased and all of the other things that I believe are important to sit on these boards objectively has been minimal. I'm blessed to have Mike McNamara, on my board. He is one of the smartest men I've ever met. He is extremely knowledgeable about the process. If I could run him through a Xerox machine, we would have an incredible planning board. Matt Erkeline, whose name has been brought up here, volunteered to be on the board as he served as an alternate, was at every meeting, and was appointed. The issue of how he was appointed and the like has been brought up. I understand the problem. I'm going to leave to the lawyers and the Board of Trustees to resolve. But I do know this. If one looks at this village and the planning board's decisions that have been made over the tenure of my chairmanship, I'm very proud that we protected this village. I'm very proud that there are things that were very much wanted and very much pushed by a large number of people that did not happen. And I believe the village is a better place for it. Conversely, I think there's a lot of things that have been done that have improved the village greatly. I personally spend the better part of 2 weeks before every meeting working on the agenda and the applicants and working with the applicants so that when they walk in the meeting, they know what they're up against and what they're going to be experiencing. So for all of those folks out there that are saying how wonderful it would be to get more people involved, please get involved, put your resumes in, talk to the mayor, but understand that this is not something that's simple. It is not something that is easy. It takes hard work, commitment, objectivity, all right, and the willingness to take the heat sometimes when people don't agree with you. And you guys are in exactly the same boat. So I thank you very, very much for your time and your consideration, and I hope that you can work through this for the betterment of the village all the way around. Thank you.
Thanks, Bert. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Got one in the back that beat you to it, actually.
Okay.
And so.
Hi, Kathy Gibson, 70 Chapman Street. I also submitted an email earlier, so just full disclosure. But a few things have come up tonight that made me want to speak in person to add to that email. Which already reiterated a lot of what else has been said. But I think the one thing that hasn't been said, or maybe I missed it because I meant to be a little bit late, is that the uniqueness of the zoning and planning board is not only a connection to the village past, but a connection to the village future, right? So we have to think about not only of the history of the village and what's made this village unique over the 20 plus years that I've lived here, but also how our village is evolving, and sometimes that's new families moving in, as we've seen on right? When I first moved in, when my kids were little, we were like one of the young people, and now I'm suddenly the old person, and I'm not really sure about that yet. But anyway, but that evolution is really critical to thinking about the character of that community, which is the main function of zoning and planning boards under our municipal law in New York State. That's why we have a home rule state, is because that character and that sense of character should be rooted in that community. And that community is our village residents. So as we seek outside input from outside of the village, that advisory role, as people have brought up, is a really great idea. But having people on the planning board that are not village residents dilutes the power of village residents to make the determination for our future and how we want to evolve. So we should think about embracing that evolution, the new families coming in, the new residents coming in. Yes, connections to the past, but also connections to our future. And so I encourage you guys to think about really who gets involved with these committees. Yes, they're a lot of work. Yes, young people may not always have time for that, but there are people stepping up, being willing to serve, and being part of that bridge to the future. So I guess I just really want you to think about the people we know and have worked really hard over years. I appreciate them, but we also need to be thinking about what the future might look like and who that might involve.
Yep.
Zoom, zoom.
Mackenzie Gray?
Hi, friends. Good evening. Mackenzie Gray, 36 Hyde Boulevard. I'd like to give my opinion as a pretty new resident of the village. I'm really excited to keep learning more about our village politics and being aware of what's going on. It doesn't make much sense to me, and thank you everyone for sharing your opinion tonight on both sides. It doesn't make much sense to me for folks outside the village to be able to serve on the board in a voting capacity. And that's my opinion. Thank you.
Next.
Yep.
I did
Crystal.
horrible.
No. Yeah.
Good evening. Crystal Whitney Hernandez, 6 Beach Street, Ballston Spa. I'm a village resident, and I don't think I have much to offer that my fellow neighbors have not already touched upon this evening. However, did want to be on the record to say that I am very skeptical of the proposed measure and do not support having non-resident village residents on the zoning and planning board. I also agree with the fact that there are many talented and qualified individuals that live within the village of Ballston Spa who would be willing to step up and serve if there was more information to know about what the current needs are. So again, thank you, and I look forward to the opportunity to be more involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gina, I think you're next.
Gina Morosi, 10 Old Glory Lane, Ballston Spa. I am not a village resident. But what I am is a member of a family that has a business that chose to locate that business in the village of Ballston Spa. And let me preface this by saying there's no way in hell I'm applying for these positions or want anything to do with these positions, but I'm just giving you something else to think about.
No way in hell you'd be accepted, don't worry.
What's that?
There's no way in hell you'd be accepted anyway.
Thank you. And I'm the mayor's sister, for those that don't know. So you have a family that has invested in your village. Their livelihood is in your village. Their property is in your village. They pay taxes just like every village member. Couldn't it be a possibility that they care about the village just as much as the residents? Couldn't it be a possibility that they're just as concerned about decisions that are made in the village that would affect their property, their livelihood, my job? I think it's been proven that I'm very involved in the village, I'm very involved in events. Again, I'm just using myself as the example. There are people out there that have a great love for this village and care about this village that just happen to live outside the village limits. I am 1 mile outside the village, 1 mile. So therefore, I'm disqualified, again, as an example. There's a lot of business owners and a lot of people that have chosen to have their livelihood in the village limits. And I don't think it's fair to say that they don't care or that they have ulterior motives. They could just share the love of the village and care about what goes on as much as the residents. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Good evening, Melissa Taylor, Fort Creek View Court, Milton. Don't want to take up much more time, just want to say I agree with the majority of speakers tonight. And obviously, I am a resident of Milton, not Ballston Spa, not the village per se. Also live a mile outside the village border and have given a lot of my time and heart to the village over the 20 plus years I've lived in this area. The mayor, I believe it was November 2023, I think interrupted me speaking on behalf of the village that I love, calling me out for living in Milton, as though I have no voice. So I think this is a very interesting moment in the village history that we're now proposing people outside the village can not only have a voice, but a vote. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Girls? Ellie?
Why not? I just wanted to say.
Name it?
Oh.
Come on, now everybody knows, Ellie.
All right, Ellie Dillon, 116 Malta Avenue, Ballston Spa.
Thank you.
This village supports its businesses wholeheartedly. That's not an issue here tonight. Tonight, it's the village residents wanting to have a destiny within their village. We want to make our decisions long-term. We support so much outside and inside the village, charity-wise, businesses, their special events, the special events of the village. We just want to have self-determination. And I thank you for listening to us tonight. And please, please follow your conscience. Thank you.
Anybody else? So there. Yes.
Josh Ness, 70 Chapman Street. I think the optics of this are really bad because many of the likely outcomes are really, really bad. And I think even the best case scenario of committed, competent, hardworking people investing in the village that don't live in the village, that's a compelling argument for dissolution of the village. So even the best case scenario has a whole host of negative outcomes. Even the boogeyman that was held up about, like, what if an 18-year-old wanted to be on this village or participate in the board? That would be bad, but that is representative of interest and a future of the village. I think the best case scenario of this is actually still a disaster. I can't imagine, I mean, Ballston Spa is not a cute puppy, but this is like drowning a cute puppy. I don't know how you can even consider this. All the things that we love about this place, it just blows me away that this is even on the table. That's an idea. Thanks.
Anybody else? It's not a closure, right? Carla, what would you do with it?
Well, you would be closing the public hearing if you're not going to take any more comments on the law as drafted.
You want to talk to Matt?
There's a Matt.
He just raised his hand.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't even see that. Okay,
He just raised his hand.
Thank you, appreciate it. We'll go to Matt then, because he got in under the wire here before we did make the motion to close. Matt, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody, and happy Monday. My name is Matthew Erkline, and my address is 8 Meadowbrook Court. This is my first time speaking actually during a public comment period, mostly because I choose not to indulge in some of the drama. It seems like my name has come out of the mouths of a few people tonight, but as we all know, this kerfuffle isn't really about me. So unlike a typical few who speak at every opportunity they get, I will be brief. I would like to address statements made by some of the vocal minority members. Number one, I changed my mailing address in July, not January 1st. Number two, I have absolutely zero desire in becoming a planning board chair someday. That is not what I want to be when I grow up. And the way the amendment is worded, that would actually preclude that from happening. Separately and additionally, I continue to own property and pay village taxes. I love this village, and I've called it my home for nearly 2 decades. I understand I understand and I mostly agree with what I'm hearing in the room on nearly all the folks who have spoken out against this amendment. I mean, it makes sense. I get it. However, looking from the inside out, I do support this amendment due to opening up the talent pool to folks, not just with a local connection, knowing what's on your corner, knowing the traffic patterns, knowing who has the best cup of coffee in town, things like that. But the folks who have the requisite technical expertise, which is much harder to come by than one would think. And now, when you're sitting here and you're reviewing the plans, there is such a steep learning curve. And folks like, for example, Mike, I mean, that man right there has a wealth of knowledge, and somebody like that would be the example of someone we would need on a board. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Last call, absolute. Going once, going twice, and gone.
Karen Avenarius. I'm assuming it's Avenarius, but Karen.
Is that Karen? She beat, going once, going twice, you got it, Karen.
Yep. Can you hear me?
We can, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Karen Evanarius, 10 East High Street. I can understand where the concerns are, and living, whether you live in the village or you don't live in the village, as a business owner, owning 9 and 11 Church Ave, 10 East High Street, 88 and 92 Milton Ave for over 20 years. My husband graduated from Ballston Spa High School. I get where people are concerned, where you don't want an outsider coming in. We have invested our life savings over 20 years ago to invest into this village. We support the village. We want the village to move forward. We were there in the early 2000s when Mayor Romano was doing the revitalization. We were part of that committee. We've tried to revitalize our own property to make it look better. We have a property why zoning was created in the village. A lot of people don't know that. Our property is in historic area. In the 80s, there was some, or maybe it was the early 90s, there was definitely some controversy over the property before we owned it. Lots of different things have happened. So we're fully aware of a lot of different things in the village. Also, as an educator, one of the things that makes a wonderful place to live is the school district, and investing in our school and making sure that development and smart growth and smart use of properties is very important for the success of our public school system. And that just makes people who want to live here and will make this community thrive even more, which then in turn will make all the businesses thrive more. So I understand where people are concerned about it. I also want to say, as a property owner, we live right outside the village. We used to live in the village at one point in time, but we live right outside the village. And I think people who own property in the village do have a vested interest. I know we have been very interested in what happens in the village because it impacts us too. And like I said, as an educator, it impacts the school district, and it's a whole circle of things that you need to think about when you're on the zoning and planning boards, and to make smart growth and smart decisions. And it's a lot for people to learn and understand, and it takes a lot of time to figure this all out. So thank you very much. I know it's a difficult decision.
Thank you. speaking before I even going once, going twice this time, right?
Thanks. Camille Woodfield, 60 Hyde Boulevard. I also wasn't going to speak, but I wanted to follow up on a couple things I just heard. I think I want to pose, if the businesses are so important in Ballston Spa, why don't they vote for the mayor? And then on top of that, I think that we're making cases for some individuals who are making a case to be on this board, who live outside of the village, but that's adding some sort of structure around this really general law, letting anyone who's 18 years old who lives in Milton be on this committee. So I really think that we should have I'm opposed to this. Thank you.
Going once, going twice. Can I get a motion to close public hearing at 8:45 PM? Trustee Fadesa. Second. Trustee Duncan Marger, I'll give it a call. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to take a 5-minute recess to allow people to shuffle out if they so choose. Thank you for your comments. There will be no further consideration, I believe, tonight is what, again, from earlier discussion.
I don't know, but some people did, I don't, should we wait till later? Some people did ask for positions and willing to share. I think I can say individually if you got a question.
I think you may be going alone on that, because I'm not sure everybody else is going to feel that, but.
I can share mine too.
Well, then, let's not go to recess until you're done on that subject.
Just real quick for people, in its current form, I do not support the draft law. I do think there needs to be some consideration about the situation, particularly with Mike. I believe if we come back with some revisions that I can support that. I think the best thing out of this, regardless of the tensions, is we've seen so many people express their interest. And as somebody who serves on the planning board in Milton, as a resident, thank you, Mike, for pointing that out. I think there's some confusion about that today. I love it. It's super interesting. It is like one of the, it's maybe nerdy, but I love it. So the folks that aren't sure if they want to serve in that kind of role, I'm happy to talk to them ever if they want to know what that's about. So that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, at first I, really supported this law, as someone that lived in Milton before I was fortunate enough to move here in the village. I felt like I was part of this community, right? And I can understand how people in the 12020 feel like they are invested in this community as well. And I can understand how business owners might feel that, right? They pay taxes, they want to see the village be successful. But I have listened quite closely to the public the last couple weeks. And the residents of the village, I really do feel are the ones, most directly affected by these rules, by these regulations, and any decisions that these boards do make. And I deserve that you guys you do deserve to be heard kind of above all of those other voices, although I do care about those other voices too. So in the present form, I don't support it moving forward, but I do think that it's worth some of those amendments to 45-5. Maybe some language changes so that way we can save those individuals who have already given so much to these boards. I think it's fair to the community too, for us not to lose those people, especially with so much going on right now. So I would like to see some revisions there. But at the end of the day, I really do think that this board does exist to serve the taxpayers here, the resident taxpayers. And I'm saying this not because of any of the personalities tonight that kind of threatened a little bit to unseat us. I don't care about that. I just think given this is the right thing to do, it was a decision that took me a lot of, thinking about this and what kind of path forward I wanted to make. And I really think that together, the 5 of us can really come together and create something that is worthy and that can move forward.
And I would just like to thank everyone who spoke for their time to speak. This is what public hearings are for, and I think it was very successful. So thank you, everyone.
5-minute recess. We'll resume around 8:55.
Love them all. Just don't need so many. Passing down boy clothes for everyone.
Okay, take 55. As I said, public comment for agenda items will no longer include the, whatever that was, which was placeholder, will not be moving forward. So public comment on agenda items only, at this point, 3 minutes. Anybody want to speak? Please.
Liz Cormos, 89 High. I want to address some of the statements made about the selection process for our planning and zoning boards. We keep hearing that.
Liz, we've taken that out.
No, excuse me, this is on item H.
Oh, for you? I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, we keep hearing only 3 people submitted interest forms, and somehow that's unusual or problematic. Truth is, it's not unusual. It happens every year when there's little notice or outreach. What's unusual this time is seeing that limited participation is being used to justify a proposal to bring outsiders onto boards that have always represented the people who actually live here. I live and work in this community. I own a business here. I've served as an elected trustee, and I've contributed as a commercial real estate consultant for over 40 years. I've been on the CRTC Planning Committee, attended nearly every planning and zoning meeting, worked with the comprehensive plan and zoning advisory process, taken county and regional planning trainings for more than 7 years. My involvement has always been about helping this village make smart, forward-looking choices, never for personal gain or partisan agendas. To hear the mayor describe residents like me as highly partisan, or to successfully try to force appointments is deeply unfair. We didn't force anything. We responded the way anyone could have. Our names appeared on the agenda because, Mayor Rossi, you chose to put them there. I wasn't even consulted. Now suddenly we're being told that we're not qualified. That's not leadership, that's backpedaling. It isn't about politics, it's about process and principle. Bottom line is that applicants weren't broadly advised for, and if they had been, we'd have plenty of qualified local residents step forward. Just like we did during the comprehensive plan process, when 15 people volunteered for planning and zoning. There's no lack of talent or willingness in this village. What's lacking now is transparency and trust. Our planning and zoning decisions shape the future of this community. They should be made by people who live here, who understand our challenges and care about our outcomes, not by outsiders appointed to fill seats that residents were never given a fair chance to apply for. I'm here because I care about the integrity of this village and respect our residents deserve.
Anybody else?
Nathan, I've got Nathan on one.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Nathan Ward, 1 Hyde Boulevard. I would like to show my support for motion H and I. Liz Cormos and Ben Baskin are hardworking people, and I think that they would be great members of the planning board as alternates. They care about the village, and they're going to do what's right for the village. I would even go even further to say I think that the board should remove Matt as a planning board member because he was illegally appointed, and put one of these 2 in to replace him. Thanks.
You, yes. Yes.
Hi there. Andy Mannion, 65 Chapman Street. Greetings, everybody. Hello. I'm a member of the Ballston Spa Library Board. I wanted to welcome the new trustees. Congratulations. First of all, I wanted to extend my profound thanks to the residents of Ballston Spa, Andrea Simmons, incredible library staff, the Library Board of Trustees, Mayor Rossi, Trustee Bush, trustee Van Dens Perez, and former trustees Baskin and Raymond, as well as the DPW village staff, Christine Fitzpatrick and Friends of the Library, and the amazing staff of Butler, Rowland, and Mays Architects. As you may know, the library has had an amazing year with a lot of ups and downs, including the new addition here, a flood, 2 closures, asbestos abatement, and added insulation. Whew, we were able to manage and weather all these happenings with the support and good wishes of the village residents and through all the hard work of the above people. And so, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you all for working so hard for the library. The library also serves the town of Milton residents, and the town of Milton appropriates money to the Ballston Spa Library each year in its budget. Library board members Patty Tesh and Lori Acey, along with library director Andrea Simmons, and village trustee Mary Price Bush and I met with Supervisor Ostrander and town board members and staff regarding the town's support for the library, and also to let them know about the library capital plan. So I want to thank the town, and I think you're going to address this later tonight in the agenda, for their continued support of the library and for the additional support they are providing for the capital project. We look forward to working with them in the future and to keep the library moving forward. Thank you very much.
David?
Yeah. Again, Gina Rosie, 10 Old Glory Lane, Ballston Spa. I would like to discuss motions H and I, please. At a minimum, I think that these 2 proposals should be tabled in light of everything that happened tonight and the added interest from residents. I don't know that these 2 should be appointed just because they're the only 2 that are put in interest or an application. That's at the minimum. Regarding Liz Cormos, I don't know that she's the best candidate for this position based on her past performance. She's been, well, we'll start with her history in New Scotland, where she's a member of the
Mayor,
committee.
is this appropriate? She's addressing a member of the public.
No, I'm not.
Well, she's talking directly about a member of the public.
Mike, technically, she's on the agenda, so as a possible member, so technically she can be spoken about in this situation. It would be the same if I was up there or anybody else as a potential member, so the answer is yes, as long as it's not gonna get beyond factual information.
Well, beginning, didn't seem very factual.
What is factual information?
Okay, guys.
Go ahead.
I would like to reclaim my time.
You have 1 minute, 2 minutes ago.
Thank you. She belonged to a committee in New Scotland where almost the entire committee resigned due to her performance.
Is that a fact?
Yes, it is.
How do we know that's a
Based
fact?
on what?
Mike?
Come on. This is an attack on her. Those aren't facts.
Mike?
Where is the evidence that that is a fact that they resigned because of her?
I'd be happy to supply it to you, whoever asked that question.
I asked that question.
Okay, well, I'm not supposed to be talking.
Folks, the back and forth ends are gonna be asked to leave. She has the right to speak, and I do know that Altamont Enterprise, I believe, reported it, so if you wanna look that up, go
You
ahead.
made a point, we are questioning the point you made.
Okay, you can get up and question it during your 3 minutes if you'd like it. She has 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining at this point.
Good?
Yep.
Her actions once she moved to this village, she was the reason that the farmer's market moved. It was very overreaching act by her.
That's a fact.
Okay, this is your last warning, or you will be asked to
That's
leave.
my first warning, thanks, Frank.
It's your first and last.
Everybody, please, you'll get your chance if you want to speak in
Yes.
favor of Liz.
Minute 40.
regarding the semi house. She was there incessantly telling the developer what to do and how to do it, to the point that he told her, why didn't you just buy it and do it the way you wanted? She confronted a merchant on Front Street regarding a sign on the sidewalk, telling that merchant that they were wrong in how they did it instead of going through the proper channels. She's also the reason that Mayor Wilbright resigned. One of the reasons, excuse me, there's two, and we'll get into the second part.
Yeah, 1 minute.
As far as Ben Baskin, he has repeatedly shown his dislike and disrespect for developers as he sat right there where you guys sat, numerous times. To be on these boards, you're supposed to be open-minded, you're supposed to be unbiased, and you're supposed to be willing to work with others. And I don't think that either of these candidates have those obligations. Thank you.
I would just like to say,
Name of interest.
Martha Iacolucci, 3 Encore Drive. Here is the reason why people do not apply for positions. If someone applies for a position, like Liz and Ben, and their names are gonna be brought up like this in front of the public, and everyone's gonna be able to criticize them, that's why you won't get qualified people.
Jared?
Jared Iacolucci, 24 Chapman Street. I think that prior comment from the mayor's sister was highly inappropriate. Very little said in there referenced anything factual. It was strictly opinion about other members of the public. As has just been said, and as others have repeated earlier during our public hearing this evening, we are trying to encourage residents to participate in this village, not discourage them through the tactics of bullying. That's what's just happened. I hope that our board can recognize that and appoint 2 qualified people with a lot of experience in this village to this planning board. Thank you.
You got Zoom?
Yep, Keith first.
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street. I want to address H and I as well. And since it was opened up for discussion, I want to invite any of the residents who are listening to this, and hopefully people are because of the controversy that was stirred up by the proposal. I would invite you to go back and look at meetings and be able to see the way that that the meetings were held, especially when former Mayor Fitzpatrick ran them, and how civil they were, but yet at the same time, the type of rancor. I've been kind of active in this political scene since 19, and I've been told by everyone that the same level of anger from Gina, from Frank, have been constantly driven at Ben and Liz, but as they did at everyone else before. It's wonderful tonight. What I think was wonderful, and I think that we can see it, is that people came out and there were other voices that expressed concern, and hopefully you'll hear them, because I think it's really important, Trustee Bernadette and Mary Price Bush, that you understand that last year, when we were told the laws weren't being broken on the organizational meeting, they were. And you were played. And I don't think you should be played this time. And I think you can have these kind of things said, and attacked, and you can say, oh, well, this is Liz and Ben are not any good. They're bad people. And if they're given this constant attack from the same people that have always attacked, it's not accurate information. Thanks.
Next. On Zoom?
Yep, Crystal Nowitty.
Hi, Crystal Whitney Hernandez, 6 Beach Street. I'd like to address
in my comments what we just witnessed as being a prime reason that people like myself have been reticent to become involved and step up and volunteer in village politics. I think it's abhorrent to have personal attacks made against people who have offered to step into positions of public service regardless of political disagreements. And I just will stand by the fact that I am still interested in participating. However, I urge members of the board and Mayor Rossi to consider the tenor of these meetings as another barrier to why people choose not to speak up and choose not to participate. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Lisa Slidell, address known to the clerk. Someone mentioned it in the previous comment period that it would be nice to hear when people are making their decisions on their votes, and this goes for everything on the agenda that's could be controversial or has comments. I'm not talking about Ed Breen's, payout, because obviously that's kind of, but on every motion that's put before you, I'd like to know every individual's reason as to why they vote yay and why they vote nay, because I think that's important for us to know. We have 2 new members. I know nothing about you. I don't know how you think, I don't know how you reason, and you're here on behalf of all of us. So I would like to know that. Bernadette, you do that on a regular basis. We appreciate it. Frank, you do it. Mary Price Bush here, I can barely hear you sometimes, and you just say yes or no, but you don't normally give a reason. So I would like to hear that as a resident to know, so I get to know how the people that are voted in are thinking on my behalf. That's all.
Anybody else? Ben first.
I'd just like to second what you just said. I think that is really important for people to articulate their positions, and I think we all appreciate it when you do, so thanks for doing that. I just want to speak on behalf of Liz Cormos. I think that's motion H. I've never met a harder working person, more dedicated to this village, and she has such a depth of expertise in what she does for a living and her background and her work as a trustee. I don't think there could be a better applicant for the planning board or any board or committee. They'll be happy, or they'll be lucky to have her. So I think she'd be a great candidate. I was actually shocked when my name appeared on the agenda. I put my name in case there wasn't anyone else. If there are other members, I am happy to let someone else have a chance to participate in this government, because I've had my chance, and I work 50 hours a month on average, apparently, for almost 5 years, and it's fine if someone else wants to do it. But if they don't, I am happy. I love this village too, like everybody here, and I'm happy to contribute and make sure what the village processes, are accomplished. So, thank you. Thanks for your nomination. Appreciate it.
And
Alex Monticello, 60 High, again. And I just wanted to say on the motion of, I guess particularly Liz, since it seems like you're okay giving it to one of the other people that.
I am as well, if there's somebody else who wants it.
Well, either way, it just seems kind of crazy to me that we had all this discussion about how we need to change the laws to make room for, to find people available for positions, and that we're gonna find people based solely on qualifications and not on partisanship or anything like that. I don't know stories about Liz's history. I just know that when I moved to the village, she's very passionate about local politics, and certainly knows a ton about all these zoning issues, planning issues, and has been an immense resource. I worked on her a bit, with her a bit on the discussions about the bike trails in town, and she was very passionate about making this village a better place to live. I get that she's very polarizing in her political outspokenness, but that's not one of the requirements to be on a board. I think that's kind of what we're looking for, is a diversity of opinions. And so if we're just going on qualifications, I don't know why we would change the law to reject or to bypass the people that are here willing to work if it's not some sort of partisan movement. And I hope, like I said, if you guys table the motions for later so that some of the other people have an opportunity, that makes sense. But I'd like you to honestly consider the people that are here based on qualifications and qualifications alone, and don't let the partisanship ruin that.
Anybody else? Yes, Sean?
I'm not sure if I can talk now. Let me know if I have to wait till later.
What's the topic? And I'll give you the.
Like general board stuff and
Probably
participation.
later, I'm gonna tell you, only because it's gotta be an agenda item. So but we
I
have
mean, I
another
can
one coming up.
speak specifically to people that are being nominated for boards.
That would work. So just, I'm trying to give you the feedback here.
9:16. I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Sean Hinckley. I reside at 115 Prospect Street, Village of Ballston Spa.
Thanks for your candor on what you wanted to do.
Thank you for letting me speak in front of you all. Just a few comments. Trustees, thank you for volunteering. Thank you for your hard work. Trustee Beth from Cornwall, Raymond Dulac. Appreciate you guys. You guys do hard work. And maybe I don't always see eye to eye, but I do appreciate your willingness to be engaged in this community. A few things. Nominating for boards. December 2022, a lot of hubbub talking about community interest forum. And I believe the main backing was to get more folks involved in the village. Awesome. This is great, right? We want people involved and invested in this community. However, from the cheap seats where I sit, listening to these things online, it seems like most of the same folks keep on making it to the boards, the same committees. Following summer, the zoning advisory committee came out, put my name in a hat and email, sent an email to the mayor, Trustee Burnett, formerly, Baskin, and Sean Raymond. I didn't hear back. I wasn't surprised. But 7 out of 11 people, I think, on that committee were on previous committees. And the well is getting poisoned, right? We talk about change, we talk about improvements, yet we keep on including the same people in everything. It's hard for someone like myself who doesn't really care about the drama and the nonsense, getting involved in something that I'm passionate about when it's the same people. I really just hope that you guys, and maybe just charge you, these two folks seem like they're qualified, that's awesome. You know, throw them in the mix, why not? But throughout this year, I'd just like to charge you guys to really just get out there. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I hate Facebook, I'm sure all you do as well, but there's a lot of folks that want to invest their time. New folks, new opinions, new committees, whatever. Really just try to find them, because we just lost a dude. He moved up north. How many years was he on the planning board? You're not going to start someone brand new at the age of 50 getting 30 years out of them. They're going to be 80 by that time, right? If you want longer term folks, you got to start them when you're younger, right? Otherwise, you know, it's just the nature of things. So don't look at age as experience. Don't look at experience. A lot of young people want to get involved. Do some cool work. Thank you.
Elliot, he took his legs out, we're falling right on you, so. What up?
Bob Bush.
Yep. Bob, go ahead.
Bob Bush, 71 Church Ave. I want to talk about H&I. I think given the way of all this interest we suddenly had tonight with that came out about changing the law, I think we should table those two and see what we can get for a more pool. Maybe go back to what we did in 2023 with the advertising of the positions and whatnot to draw people in. Because it seems like from what everyone keeps saying from the public comment that there's this big pool out there. So we should have more than just 2 people applying for those 2 positions. But if we're not reaching out for them, we're not going to get them. And I understand about the bipartisan and all the other stuff, and I get it. But I really think we need to table those for at least 30 days and go through the process we did in 2023 to reach out to the public and draw people in to see what we get. And yes, I agree with some I forgot who said it about the whole drama crap. I get all that crap. That nonsense needs to stop, but you're going to get that no matter where you are. Maybe not at this level, but you're going to get that, and you need to have some people need to learn to kind of brush it off their shoulders and whatnot, and just see the bigger picture. And I understand how upsetting it can get because I've taken a break from looking at these meetings for a while because of that. But again, that's my opinion.
Thank you. Another hand up there.
Kristen.
Frank?
Hello, Kristen Icolucci, 24 Chapman Street. I'd like to comment on G, H, and I. So I guess my understanding is G is going to be tabled entirely, that there's not going to be a vote on the proposed local law. If that is the case, then I think we should move forward with H and I. They are just, from my understanding, appointments as alternates for the planning board for Liz Cormos and Ben Baskins. As we heard earlier, even amid these personal attacks that continue from the mayor's sister, we have highly qualified, dedicated citizens, residents of the village that still want to volunteer their time to serve as alternates on these boards. I think we should proceed and vote on that and put them as alternates here. It's my understanding that there's some significant planning and zoning developments that are coming up for a vote here in the next month. Coniford, I believe, is coming back for the Tannery Commons project. I know that the village is going to be very interested in that. I think that's coming up for the zoning and the planning board. So I think it's important for us to have a full board with alternates. I think tabling these for another month or more would not be wise. I think we should have village residents on our boards, serving and, at the table for these important decisions. And I do want to say that I think all of the people that are on the boards right now, there's a lot of people that are dedicating their time, but a lot of their opinions are centered more on the developer and landlord perspective. I think we really do need to have a diversity of opinions on these planning and zoning boards that are representing residents that are maybe renters or non-business owners, non-landlords. So I really want to see people serve that have a perspective that is, that is different than those that are already serving on these boards. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Just to be clear, there's no impending votes of the Angelica project. But last I knew that if they do come back, and that's an if, they're going to be presenting a new plan of some sort, or at least a revised plan. So there will be no vote until variances and or site plan would become in that position. There's got to be public hearings and everything else. So there is nothing like that happening. Just to clarify. But anyway. Best. Did I see? Okay. Sorry. This is hat that I saw. Sorry, Liz. Okay. Anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda? So you don't want to remove that salt? I know it's controversial right now. I'll have to put a stop. Got to get a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda. Trustee Pendenza, Trustee Price Bush, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to retire police officer Edward Brain, vacation sick, personal and comp time, be paid as a final payout of his free time in accordance with the PDA contract? It's listed there. Trustee Pendenza. Trustee Review. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to read a resolution granting authority of the City of New York to adjust bills of also filed owned water valves on New York Route 50, included in PIN 1811.50, pavement resurfacing and set aside SFY 26B budget. Trustee Frank Bush. Trustee Benitez, discussion. Basically, they just asked us if, when they're repaving, if they get in proximity of our water valves, so they can move them in a way that would be not a problem. DPW reviewed this with them, and it's okay according to Scott Kearns. Oh, yeah, that is, we did get that, yeah. Yes, DOT, but yes.
DOT, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Getting a motion approving the retention agreement between Todd, Bartlett, Pond, Stewart and Rhodes, PC regarding bond counsel services and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement. Trustee Fandesa.
Second.
Trustee Dunkelbarger, discussion. This pertains to what's coming up next here with respect to Milton Water District number 3 pump house. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let me take a break here. Carla, I'll have you kind of take the reins on D and E officially, but just to explain, we need to make resolutions or approve resolutions here related to the next steps for doing alterations to the pump house in Milton Water District number 3. This is related to Middletown Center, kind of requiring those upgrades because the pump house was never intended to serve over 500 customers. No problem, we're just going to have to spend money to do it, but the money is going to be refunded by the users in Milton Water District number 3 who benefit from those, and that's going to be the town of Milton that ultimately collects that money and gives it back to the village for any debt that we've undertaken. It's possible that the town could take out the debt or take out our debt in its entirety, but the way it's written currently, we'll assume we're going to be standing on the debt and being compensated for it over X number of years, and that's what we'll be determining. But first, we have to get the authority via permissive referendum possibilities to do it. That's why this is here. So Carla, if you want to take it from there.
Sure, there's not a whole lot more to add.
Well, the seeker, you're going to be telling us about, I think more than anybody else here, what's up with the seeker type 2.
Yep, I am. The seeker document has to be done because this is a project and it's an action under seeker, and borrowing money is also an action under seeker. However, under seeker, because this is a replacement or a repair of the existing water pump, the pump station, it is a type 2 action under the regulations, so you don't actually have to go through the entire seeker. And I know Labella presented the board with a memo to that effect, that they believe it to be a seeker type 2. We looked into it, it's seeker type 2 as well. Before you adopt the resolution authorizing the bonding, you have to adopt the seeker resolution. So you have before you a resolution just setting forth that the project and the action being taken has been reviewed and is determined to be a seeker type 2 action. Therefore, there's no further work for you to do under seeker.
Okay, thank you. With respect to that resolution, are we able to dispense with the reading?
Sure. You do have to have a roll call, though.
Yep. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution related to seeker type 2 naming of this action?
So moved.
Trustee Dunkelbarger. Trustee Fandesa. Discussion. Let's go to roll call.
Trustee Van Deven,
Yes.
Prince Bush,
Yes.
Trustee Dubuque,
Yes.
Trustee Dunkelbarger,
Yes.
Mayor Rouser.
Yes. So that is approved. Okay, the resolution regarding permissive referendum for the $600,000 maximum, I will indicate that it's probably less than $600,000. We're just trying to be careful here with respect to making sure we've covered the number sufficiently, because we'll have to wait 50 days, is it, with respect to our ability to borrow?
Yes, the way it works is this resolution authorizes you to borrow up to $600,000, either through serial bonds or through a bond anticipation note. You can get grants. Somebody could gift you $600,000. This just authorizes you to, just like we did with the fire trucks, this authorizes you to borrow the money. It does not require you to borrow the money. What this also has in here is it's a permissive referendum, which means this has to wait 30 days for it to become effective. And that means individuals, if they don't want the village to have this and they want a vote for it, then they have to petition for a referendum. If after the 30 days there is no referendum, you still have another 20 days to wait under the legal estoppel period, where there is the opportunity to legally challenge in court the constitutionality of this. So you ultimately have 50 days from tomorrow, basically, until you can actually go forward and attempt to bond anything.
As such, can we dispense with the reading of the resolution?
You can, but you have to, again, it has to be by roll call and it has to be a vote of the supermajority.
Yes. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution related to the $600,000 borrowing authority related to Milwaukee District Number 3's pump house modifications? Trustee Fandesa, Trustee Price Bush, discussion, roll call.
Trustee Fandesa?
Yes.
Trustee Price Bush?
Yes.
Trustee Dubuque?
Yes.
Trustee Dunkelbarger?
Yes.
Mayor Rossi?
Yes. Motion approved. Can I get a motion approving the supplemental agreement for engineering services by Lavella Associates DPC related to Milton Water District Number 3, authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement? Trustee Fandesa, Trustee Dunkelbarger, discussion. This is basically inside that $600,000 number, but they do have to expend a little bit more related to the SCADA work that has to be done, which is the basically the platform they use to communicate with pump house equipment, and we're gonna hope that that's gonna be less too, but again, they're being protective here just to make sure. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. G is skipped. H, can I get a motion that Elizabeth Cormos be appointed as an alternate to the planning board for the remainder of 2026 with the end date not to be before December 31st, 2026?
Make a recommendation that we table these two items since there's been so many folks expressing interest, and not that y'all aren't qualified, but you have given a lot of time to this community. It'd be great for other folks to have that opportunity.
Well, I'm going to give the option to move and second it first, and then if it wants to be tabled from there, is that probably the right way to do it, Carla?
No, because if there's no second, then the motion doesn't go anywhere. So you can take a motion, you can make a motion, and if there's a second, then it goes somewhere and you can table it. Or at this point, if you want to just table it, you can make a motion to table it.
Well, I don't think you even table at that point, we just ignore the motion, right? As if it's a nullity.
You have it on the agenda, so what you would do is say we're removing these from the agenda or we're tabling those. I don't know, either way you want to do it.
Well, I'll make a motion to table H and I, so we can take a look at other applicants as well.
You have to do it one at a time, to be honest with you, but go ahead.
Okay, motion for H to be tabled.
Trustee Fandesa, Trustee Dubuque, this is an automatic motion to vote. Let's go roll call.
Trustee Fandesa?
Yes.
Trustee Price Bush? Yes. Trustee Dubuque?
Yes.
Trustee Dunkelbarger?
Yes.
Mayor Rossi?
I will not vote as I am not required for a tiebreak in this situation.
I'll make a motion to table I as well.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Trustee Fandesa, Trustee Dubuque on the motion to table. Again, an immediate motion for roll call.
Trustee Fandesa?
Yes.
Trustee Price Bush?
Yes.
Trustee Dubuque?
Yes.
Trustee Dunkelbarger?
Yes.
Mayor Rossi?
No vote due to no need for tiebreaker.
Cowards.
No. I'm sorry, who was that?
That was me.
Okay, please.
No,
Yes.
call the police.
We're gonna recess for 5 minutes.
want me to end it?
Yeah, the whole meeting's not.
But either way, we're technically not back, but we'll, for the purpose of open meeting, we'll find, and that too. Carla had actually raised a concern about me abstaining historically, and my intention is to abstain from every vote related to these appointments moving forward because it's my recommendation, and so as we now have put more of a microscope on this, that was going to be my approach on it. She said to me essentially today, technically you as mayor are not supposed to actually give a vote unless you're a tiebreaker or in a true resolution situation where a supermajority might be necessary and a vote might be a problem. So I voted on those two just to avoid any problem. These are majority situations. That's why I abstained or would have abstained, but chose to say it as I am not a tiebreaker as such, I'm not voting. And Carla, could you give me any more than that. I mean, I think
Yeah, no, that's correct. You and I did have a conversation today, because abstaining and recusing are legal terms, and there's reasons for one or the other. So, as the mayor, a mayor is never required to vote on anything unless there's a tiebreaker, and then the mayor is the tiebreaker. So, in many villages, mayors don't, they just don't vote on things. So, I just reminded the mayor that that's what his authority is under 4400, and to do with it what he wanted. But yes, you're not required to make a vote unless there's a tiebreaker. You're allowed to, you can, you're just not obligated to.
good. I don't think the objection was on a legal basis, but
So-
the village has asked for
We're gonna
openness
stop
and
this, I appreciate we can talk after, we are in the middle of trying to do motions, so please everybody, just please try not to interject, it really,
Well, we're on break right now, and
but, technically, but I would prefer.
Well, we shouldn't be on break, this should be recording.
This
because
is
the-
recording, but I just would like for all of us to get through these motions. If you wanna have other conversations about this, certainly we're available. But let's get through this part first and move along.
ready to resume officially?
We are.
Okay, we're back in session here, 9:41. Can I get a motion to approve the agreement between the Village of Ballston Spa and the town of Milton related to the village library's operations and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement?
I'll make a motion.
Trustee Dubuque?
Trustee
Grace Bush. In fact, can we reverse those two out of fairness? Is that okay? Thank you. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let me just get through these. Can I get a motion approving the agreement between the Village of Ballston Spa and Town of Milton related to the village events, authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement? Trustee Dunkel-Barker.
Gotta be sharper.
Trustee Price Bush, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Can I get a motion approving the agreement between the Village of Ballston Spa and the Town of Milton related to the village library's capital project and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement? Trustee Price Bush,
I'll second.
trustee Dubuque, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Can I get a motion approving the agreement between the Village of Ballston Spa and the Town of Milton related to the village swimming pool operations and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement? Trustee Mendoza, trustee Dunkel-Barker, discussion, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Let's go to liaison reports while I handle. Trustee Mendoza starts.
So, mine are pretty brief tonight. The Chocolate Fest of the Business Association is on the 6th, starting at 5 p.m. It's always a good time to get out there and enjoy the businesses that we have and just to just enjoy the community. It's one of our busier events, oddly enough, in the middle of the winter. Our revitalized Ballston Spa committee had its last meeting before they present. Well, our consultants will be presenting February 8th at our February 8th meeting, the draft plan, and they'll be giving a short presentation on that. So our board will receive it, and then there's a process and timeline of what we would adopt as a board. And then just briefly, Chief Crow had given me information, and he gives me a lot of information, so I'll keep her brief though. In 2025, we had 540 fire calls, ranging from general calls to mutual aid. It represents 5,480 hours of service. Our fire department also did training. There was 2,354 hours of training. Each department did their own training, and then there was also training between the drills. The two companies did together. Alright, and then individual fire training, there was a lot of that, it's everything from aerial operations, fire investigations, more interestingly and more relevant these days, lithium-ion battery storage training, and our volunteers did 1,153 hours of various trainings, very specialized training. And then just want to thank them. They've done so much work, both training and then also being in the community, encouraging our students to be thoughtful about, fire what their plan is if they're ever in danger. And I appreciate Chris Biddle paying attention. So that's all I've got. Mine are pretty short tonight. And that's it.
Thank you to our officers also who's handled that situation locally. Let us go to Mary. I'm just thinking of going back to we'll just go around one again.
Okay. Sledding down Main Street is scheduled for March 7th at 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Front Street will remain open for pedestrian traffic. The library is going to have a book discussion on Wednesday, January 28th from 3:30 to 4:30. And the current book is Westwood Giraffes by Linda Rutledge. New members are welcome and copies are available at the circulation desk. And the Friends of the Library, Leah Seeger was elected a new president of the Friends of the Library. She has lots of energy and she's going to be a great fit with them. They also had a 3-month social media blitz campaign, and in the process they raised approximately $24,000. And the donations came from Giving Tuesday, year-end giving, as well as the annual appeal postcard drive. And donations were made in memory of former Friends of Library president and former village mayor Christine Fitzpatrick. So they do a great job raising money, and it's nice a lot of it was in Christine's memory.
Do me a favor when you get a chance, because I don't know if but the new head of the seniors, Boston area seniors, had written and wanted to sit down and talk. I also wanted to do it with you. So if you could, see when, how, and what your schedule allows, because I know you've got work, so I don't want to cause you any issues. So if you could arrange something, I'd be thrilled to meet. Thank you, appreciate that. Charlie?
All right, the Historic District Commission will hold its next monthly meeting on February 10th at 7 p.m. at 90 East High Street. The public, of course, is welcome to attend. The Committee on the Arts invites the public to a touch of woodwinds on February 14th at 3 p.m., Valentine's Day, of course, at the Brookside Museum. And the program Music for a Victorian Tea, which was originally scheduled for February 17th, has been rescheduled to February 21st. Well, it was originally scheduled for January 17th, and now rescheduled to February 21st at 3 p.m., also at Brookside. And registration is, of course, strongly encouraged, and that can be completed at brooksidemuseum.org. The committee is also beginning preparations for the village's celebration of National Poetry Month in April. And the additional details, of course, are going to be shared as plans do develop, so stay tuned. I'll have some more information on next meeting. And finally, the committee will hold its next meeting on February 11th at 7 p.m. at Brookside. And just a heads up that there is a vacancy for this board's committee as well. So I know we talked about this a lot tonight. If you are interested, please apply. It's a great group, and we are going to start looking at applications soon. Right?
That is not residency.
No, it's not.
So we will accept outsiders on those committees. Obviously, the preference generally given to the village, but just make sure we can fill out. And when it comes to the fact that those committees are technically volunteering to make projects occur inside the village, it's one of those things we don't want to refuse to help if we need it. So.
Absolutely. And finally, the Park and Tree Board is beginning to look ahead to the upcoming budget season, and several priorities are already under consideration. These include continuing beautification efforts in our village parks, the potential for additional outdoor dining tables in Griswold Park, and ongoing work related to tree removal, stump grinding, and the planting of new trees. The board is also exploring improvements for both Kelly Park and Old Iron Spring Park to ensure these spaces remain welcoming and well cared for. Looking toward the next fiscal year, the board is excited to be coordinating with the BSBPA and the Adopt a Plot program. This partnership will help ensure consistent watering of adopted plot sites as well as village trees, shrubs, and flowers around our parks. As always, it's never too early to start thinking about spring plantings. The Park and Tree Board continues to review and update the ideal tree planting list for the Village of Boston Spa, taking into account soil testing, planting locations, and long-term sustainability. It's getting late. If you're considering planting a tree this year, please feel free to reach out. The board is always happy to help identify the best varieties for your location. And the next Park and Tree meeting is scheduled for February 17th at 7 p.m. at the Cornell Cooperative Extension Conference Room. Please keep an eye on the calendar though, because that date might change to the following week. They're still working that out. That's it.
DPW was working in, they completed some repair of a water piping survey on the village wells on Elm Street. They finished the commercial water meter readings, and they're starting estimated readings for the additional 200 accounts. They received the completed village-wide leak detection survey that helps identify 3 water system issues that they're going to look at when the weather allows. They're continuing to clean up the water department facility on Bull Street. They started flooding the ice rink. They finally got some cold water. And they installed school banners along Front Street. And as of Friday, they spent the bulk of their time preparing and dealing with the snow.
Really?
And as a person, I'd like to thank them for all they do. But if you have a fire hydrant in your yard, please make sure you shovel that as well as you did your sidewalk.
Yep, and that's a fire department reminder all the time, so surprised I didn't give you that one. Reminder, please. Treasurer's report going back, utilities, the bills will be going out, landing in residents' hands by postal mail or email by February 1st. In the future, you'd like to receive your utility bill via email, please call Village Hall and have us update your account. Utility bills will be due by the end of business on March 3rd, 2026 to avoid any penalties. Preliminary estimates are provided in Treasurer's report for water, sewer in total. Tis the season for budgets. Yes, budget requests will be sent out in the next week or so. So if you're a committee, board, department, etc., you're going to want to reach out to us if you haven't received a request by February 6th, namely the Treasurer's Office, and they'll handle that. We need this information completed by the last day of February for budget consideration. I'd ask you to get it a week earlier if possible so we can get a good sit down and review it in depth. Department heads, please contact Jennifer in Village Office to set up a time to go over your budget with the mayor and the treasurer. Medical cards, most employees that are enrolled in WEX HRA have received their health reimbursement debit cards at this point. Just a reminder that employees have access to the website as well as an app. They can install on their mobile device to access claims of payments and sales tax. January sales tax for Sarasota County is due to come out in the next day or two, according to the Treasurer's Office, and so we'll report on it next time. And according to Melissa, spring is 57 days away, but it sure don't feel it. Okay, old business, new business, no. Public comment on any issue, 3 minutes. Sean, here would be your chance to be any topic, but that was where you were aiming it earlier, so.
Yeah.
You want to go for it?
Yeah, I'm gonna come back.
I'm ready.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say anything wrong.
Yes, but the new rule is you cannot call Ellie old. Okay,
No, I
please.
just 115 Prospect. I just really wanted to talk again about H&I, coming back to it. Listen, I get it. We just heard the chair of the planning board said it takes time to repair it. The next meeting will be next month if there's a meeting. So we're gonna punt this 2 weeks. We have 2 folks that, with respect, have time to commit to the village. It's an alternate planning board, 1-year term. We have some new people that want to sign up, but can they commit to the time? We don't know. We have 2 folks here. I would prefer other people, new people, obviously, but at the same time, having a board not fully represented going into this year could be a lot of work. We're going around, someone catches COVID, we're gonna have a board of 4 voting on something. I mean, that's a little dicey to me. So if you don't want to open up both, that's cool. Maybe just, we got some section for this, maybe consider bringing on 1. That would be done with that, but yeah. Maybe y'all can do a foot race outside and see if we can get it. I don't know. That's all, thank you.
Sean, are you in shift?
The thing is, I can't commit, it's hard to commit time. I want to be able to dedicate my time fully in all things I do, right? I would love to be a participant in anything, but it's a family decision, my wife, my kids, right? And that's why I say these two folks here, they've already put their head in, they've already said, I can commit this time to this board for a period of 1 year. I think that's fair for anyone to sign up. Like, we don't want people at 50% in. I'd rather have 100% in and be awful at it than someone 25% in and that's great at it.
I remember your application for the ZAC, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, it's just hard to say without talking to my wife. But two folks right here, and they can jump in next month and get going. Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Liz, I'm sorry.
Liz Biddle, 113 Thornton. I just have a BSBPA announcement that was kind of last minute. We have a networking breakfast. It's February 3rd, and it's going to be at Golden Hour Beauty Salon on Milton Ave. It's 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
Are you doing margaritas again?
In the morning? Probably not in the morning, but
Bloody Marys.
Moses, clearly.
Maybe why not? Go check it out.
For those that don't know, during the ribbon cutting, they had I think I can say kick-ass DJ bar event. It was actually really good. Jim Tedisco was, okay, I shouldn't say this way, but Jim Tedisco was looking not to leave anytime soon during that one. Okay, who else we got? Alex?
I did just want to quickly welcome the new members. I didn't do that earlier, and I feel bad that one of the first meetings you guys have has had kind of this law that is pretty controversial. So you guys had to hear a lot of us upset, and I feel like I showed up pretty angry. Normally I'm more reserved, but I wanted to apologize for that and welcome you guys on. And then also I liked Trustee Benton's Brad's.
You can say Brad.
It's
a hard one.
I do like, there were multiple people that came up and spoke about how it's good to hear points of view and the reasoning behind votes. You do that frequently, and tonight again when you heard the feedback from people, which I agree that it would be good to have new faces in the boards, and I think they're qualified, but also new faces definitely are great. I like that you listened to that feedback and then voted to table it based on that feedback and explained yourself. And that's what we want for everybody. And so I welcome everybody and want to congratulate you on that.
Mike?
Thank you, Mike. I could 3 Encore Drive. With respect to votes and abstentions, I believe in October, November, December, there were several issues that came before the then board where trustees split 2-2, and I believe the mayor abstained in several of those. And just to understand, I don't understand the legal aspects of all this. If indeed what I think I heard from Carla is the mayor is not required to vote on anything, and in fact, if it's true that mayors typically vote only to break a tie, that's new information for me, and I suspect for many of us in the community. And please recognize that a choice to abstain from voting leaves me, and I think many people, frustrated. What is the issue? Why are you not voting yes? Why are you not voting no? Abstaining is something that causes frustration and confusion for us trying to understand the steps you're taking. Thank you.
Next. Ben?
Just thinking about the whole recruiting volunteer process, I think it could all be strengthened from beginning to end, and maybe some administrative activities. So some standard operating procedures around how to advertise, where to advertise, publication of minimum preferred criteria or eligibility, and then a process for communicating back to people, both people who you've chosen, but also people you haven't chosen, to thank them and say, sorry, we're full, with other people, but we appreciate it, and we're gonna keep you on your application for the next opportunity. Often you hear people say, I never heard anything back. You know, here I am volunteering, offering my time, and there's crickets. And so that's like a turnoff. So somehow tightening up the process, I think, to get that communications circle going. That'll also help for the next time you need volunteers, because people aren't turned off by the first time when they didn't hear anything. So that's great. And also the whole mayor not voting, I would think that would be generally desirable and appropriate for a mayor to vote if there's a 2-2 tie. Now, if they abstain, it fails, but in that case, there is a tie. So you would think it would, like Mike said, we'd all want to hear what that third deciding vote has to say about that issue, and not just fail by default.
For S400 Mayor 1, it shall be the responsibility of the Mayor A to preside at the meetings of the Board of Trustees and may have a vote upon all matters and questions coming before the board, and he shall vote in case of a tie. However, on all matters and questions, he shall vote only in his capacity as Mayor of the village, and his vote shall be considered as one vote. I mean, that's what she was pointing to earlier with respect to it, and she's correct. And if I abstain in a tie situation, we always state that it's converted to a no vote for the purpose of vote totals in that situation. Okay, next. Anyone? We got one? Yeah.
Keith?
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street. I'm really confused, and I'd like the board to address before it ends this meeting what it plans to do to mitigate the exposure of the January 1st appointment of a non-resident against village and state law to the planning board. The planning board had a meeting on the 14th of January. I'm told Matt Erkeline participated in this meeting. I'm told there was not a decision that was made, but there was a discussion. There was information that was shared. There was direction to the applicant to go back, do some additional work, or there's some additional discussion that's going on. We've had newspapers now say, hey, there's someone who's been appointed January 1st who doesn't meet the criteria. The village knows of this. Each of the trustees know of this. All of the residents know of this. This legislation tonight was tabled, or it's being rewritten, or I don't know. But what are you doing about that? How are you limiting the exposure to the village? Does that open up exposure to each of the trustees since the trustees know? What does it do? And there were two. I'm unsure of the other gentleman's name, but I'm unsure if that too is a problem. So can you please address that with the residents so those concerns can be put to rest? Thank you.
The answer is no. We've had an attorney advice session to discuss that and other matters, and as such, it is attorney-client discussion that cannot be shared as it was a topic of a session of that nature. Anybody else? Seeing none. Let's see. Other business included but not limited to board response, public comment?
Boss, Kristen, just raise your hand.
You kind of move high, so like right now.
Kristen, go.
Hold on, where'd she go? I can't get hers.
Hi, Kristen Icolucci, 24 Chapman Street. I just would like to ask the board again. The last board meeting of the year in December, there was a resolution brought to this board regarding immigrant and community safety, considering there is been two U.S. citizens executed by immigration enforcement in Minnesota, and I would like to bring this to this new board. What are we doing to ensure that this kind of extrajudicial killing is not happening here in Ballston Spa? Is there any policy that is going to be made available with our local police department? Any collusion with ICE? That is something that we've been asking for, and we have not gotten an answer. I would like to understand this board's position about that. So please, please get back to us on that. Thank you.
And is there anybody else or no?
Michelle Judah.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. I wasn't going to say anything until I just came across something that I think is relevant to some of the conversation that's been had tonight. I live at 34 Van Tassel Lane in the town of Ballston. I was really impressed by the public showing at the public hearing earlier tonight. Certainly the residents of the village didn't need any assistance from people outside of the village to express their thoughts. I have not interacted with Mayor Rossi's Facebook page probably in years, so there can absolutely be no assertions made that I'm, hitting his page up constantly, causing problems, creating unrest. I did recently ask him to clarify in his explanation regarding the tool that he has put together for people to find out if their property is in a village. Just a simple language clarification where he has explained that the tool will show people, do they live in the village or the town? And I asked for a very factual correction that people in the village also live in the town, as we heard from Trustee Van Deens earlier this evening. So instead of just saying, hey, yeah, you're right, let me think about how to clarify that, because you're correct. He's chosen to make this a big issue. When I did post on my page a screenshot that when they utilize this tool, very fortunately, they can get the information he's looking for in terms of which municipality they need to go to for help with services that they need. And they also can find out that they live in the village or they don't live in the village and what town they reside in. So I posted a screenshot that says, hey, this information is there. For some reason, the mayor has blocked me from his page, which, as we've heard, is used to convey very essential information about happenings in the village of Ballston Spa, and I think is just yet another example of juvenile behavior. Thank you.
Michelle, the page has been unpublished, and I'll explain why in a minute. Board response, Paul?
I would just like to respond to the fact that I was called a coward. I clearly heard Mr. Baskin and Mrs. Liz Hormos withdraw their nominations if there were other people interested. That's the only reason I agreed to table it. Let's see who else is available. They both said it.
We didn't withdraw.
Well, you said if you have other people.
If you have other
Yes.
people, look at this.
In my mind, they're interested, but let's see what the pool is, and then we can move ahead with them or other people.
Sean?
I agree. I don't appreciate being called a coward either. We're sitting up here, we're doing our best, and not only that, but we could have voted no. Instead, we voted to table it, which means not now. Let's get the proper information and let's make sure, all we did tonight was hear that we need to make sure we're making the best decision for the residents here. And that's what we're doing, and that's why we tabled that tonight, instead of saying no or instead of saying yes.
You can tell us about the stuff. Then to your point about getting back to people, I agree with you, because during the BOA process, a woman said, why did I not find out? And it just didn't even dawn to me why I didn't reach out to her. So I think that's a good practice to start adopting. Whether that, who does that, we'll figure it out, but I do agree with you. I felt bad when she said, why didn't I know? And I'm like, you're right, you're absolutely right on that, so. certainly more work could be done on that.
Okay, I will be taking some time off as mayor over the next couple of weeks. One thing I realized when Christine passed is health becomes paramount. And right now, my health is not in great shape, unfortunately. I'm not looking for sympathy on that, but we're at a point where I have to sort of look out for myself a little bit, and so it is time. What it means and how and when, I can't tell you this particular second, so I would ask you to not press me on it because I can't answer it in the first place. But understand, and I think to the tone of what you all have just said, is that to call folks cowards for even sitting up here, to understand the detrimental effects it can have on your health, be it physical and mental. And I think Ben and Liz could probably even fess up to this idea too, is pretty drastic at times. And it's one of those times in my life where I need to take care of me. And I apologize to the community for that fact, because I feel like I'm letting it down in that respect. But at the same time, it's what you have to do sometimes. So understand, I love all of you. I am honored to be your mayor. This is not goodbye in that respect. It's just I need to sort of take a breather here and get some things handled. And I look forward to our next communication. For now, the page is unpublished because out of fairness for folks to know where to find information, it won't be on that page for the time being. So we'll resume that when we can. It's not deleted, you're not blocked, and that's that. Can I get a motion that vouchers be audited and the meeting be adjourned at 10:11 p.m.? Trustee DeVere. Trustee Price Bush, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. See you soon.